Chapter 1287. Feng Yun was still unaware of the situation. And even the system was still silent, completely unaware of the situation. Speak. You audacious people actually dared to cause trouble here. You're simply too full of yourself. Damn it. At this time, Feng Yun shifted the anger of the past to the present, and the anger in his heart burned to the peak. The subordinates that were sitting at the side all stood up and looked at Feng Yun. Although they did not emit any pressure, Feng Yun immediately felt that his heart was about to split open, even if the air was filled with the smell of blood. Feng Yun shook his head. What was wrong with him? He was actually frightened by the other party's aura. They were clearly just ordinary people, yet they were able to give off such a terrifying aura. Seemingly feeling that he had lost face, Feng Yun's complexion didn't look too good. He made up his mind to kill these people. Attack! Feng Yun shouted coldly. It was as if Feng Yun could already see the people in front of him wailing in pain, blood flowing all over the ground, and then begging for mercy, asking him to forgive their arrogance. At this moment, Blood Demon came over with the first dish and said respectfully, "Boss, the dish is ready." Yihua looked at the stir-fried meat in front of him, and his appetite came. He picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. The texture was still as good as before. When Feng Yun saw that these people actually still have the mood to discuss stir-fried meat, Feng Yun was simply about to explode from anger. What are you waiting for? Do it. Feng Yun had already lost his usual demeanor as he shouted at his subordinate. There's no way to evoke the hatred in my heart. However, the person behind Feng Yun stood in the same place, his expression a little slack, as if he had lost his mind. Feng Yun turned around to look at his subordinates, his angry eyes mixed with confusion. What had happened to them? Do it. Have you all lost your minds? Feng Yun shouted in a deep voice. The people who were eating at the side were also puzzled. This is the famous Lord Feng of the organizing committee, and I heard that all of his subordinates are powerful experts. Why is it now? Qing Yutong didn't expect that the current system would actually be so powerful, to actually be able to retrieve the data of the characters that other people summoned out. That was way too awesome. What are you doing? Feng Yun angrily shouted. He felt his face burning. These obedient subordinates had actually rebelled one by one. Pa. A purple card at the side raised its hand and slapped Feng Yun, causing him to be dumbfounded. The slap was very loud, but it was not very powerful. This sudden situation caused everyone in the surroundings to be stupefied. What's going on? Lord Feng's subordinate actually slapped Lord Feng. This slap sounds very resounding. Pa. An orange card beside him suddenly gave him a slap. The orange card's strength was above Feng Yun's. This slap caused Feng Yun's teeth to fall out. Feng Yun covered his face and looked at his orange card. This was the orange card that had been with him for 12 years. Today it actually rebelled. How could this be? What was wrong with them? Did they take the wrong medicine? Just as Feng Yun was feeling puzzled, the blue card actually surged forward and pushed the dumbfounded Feng Yun to the ground. Then, it abused him to its heart's content. The orange card and purple card would occasionally give him a few kicks from the side. It seemed to be very exciting. Feng Yun protected his face and shouted out loudly in his heart. Crashing currently rebooting. Crashing currently rebooting. Crashing currently rebooting. Hearing this cold and despairing voice, Feng Yun's heart turned cold. Why did it become like this? At this time, Feng Yun looked at Yihua from the corner of his eyes and suddenly discovered that the corner of Yihua's mouth was slightly curved. This curve made Feng Yun recall that back then, that man's mouth also had this kind of curve. Damn it! Feng Yun shouted out angrily and sent the blue card beside him flying. His entire body turned into a sharp sword and directly attacked towards Yihua, who was currently eating. A fierce aura engulfed the entire Maple Forest Valley. This is actually the aura of a Dodi, so powerful. Facing such a powerful Dodi, Yihua continued to eat his stir-fried meat. A figure suddenly blocked in front of Yihua. At the same time, the figure erupted with the strength of a Dozun. Just that aura alone was enough to send Feng Yun flying. After all, there was a difference of one level. Yihua looked towards Qing Yutong. Qing Yutong laughed tenderly. Brother-in-law is still so smart, to be able to see through me in an instant. Yutong, it's almost done. Qingye said in a low voice. This person is quite pitiful. It wasn't easy for him to summon an orange card, but he ended up acknowledging Yihua. From the looks of it now, he seems to be doing quite well. And yet, he was messed with by Qing Yutong again. Sai Yihua couldn't help but say, he threatened to kill us. I feel that what Yutong did is still too light. Hearing that, Qingye didn't say anything. Recently, I have been quarreling with him frequently this year. Could this be the legendary 7-year itch? However, this 7-year itch seems to have passed already. Forget it, I am taking care of my child today. I don't want to quarrel with you. Qingye said in a low voice. Could it be that my menopause is coming? That's why my temper is a bit more violent? Do you think that I want to quarrel with you? Yihua said coldly. In actuality, Qingye felt that it was all Yihua's fault that turned into such a scumbag. Donghuang Baiji also quarreled with Yihua, but when she heard that her son actually took the initiative to look for a girlfriend, she felt that it was a good thing. Thus, her mood also became better, and she wasn't as irritable as Qingye. The miserable shrieks outside were still continuing. Those summoned figures looked as if they had seen their enemy, and began beating up Feng Yun without any regard for their lives. Reboot is successful, master. Following that, those summoned figures finally stopped beating up Yihua. Afterward, Yihua looked at Feng Yun doubtfully. Feng Yun let out a sigh of relief. I was almost trampled to death. However, just when Feng Yun felt relieved, a foot stepped onto his face, and the beating was still continuing. Crashing. Currently rebooting. Crashing. Currently rebooting. Crashing. Currently rebooting. I'm going to die. System crashing. About to self-destruct. System crashing. About to self-destruct. System crashing. About to self-destruct. Feng Yin went into a daze. Didn't I just scold you once, and you want to self-destruct? Is your heart that weak? Big brother. Don't collapse. If you collapse, I will collapse too. We appeared in this world together, and we said that we will walk to the peak hand in hand. Why do you want to collapse and leave me? Can't you give me a reason? Big brother, I was wrong, alright? In the future, I, Feng Yun, will definitely not scold you anymore. Without you, how am I going to live? Everything that I have right now will become nothing. Don't suddenly. Feng Yun felt that the beating had stopped. When he opened his eyes, all of his subordinates who were beating him up just now had all disappeared. Chapter 1288. At this moment, Feng Yun was stunned. Although his entire body was in pain, he still rubbed his eyes. System? System? Are you still there? Feng Yun asked blankly. However, there was no longer any response in his mind. Feng Yun's pupils gradually became hollow. All of his strength came from the system. At this moment, countless duki poured out from his body. This was a very huge duki, and everyone could feel it, causing them to be very astonished. Why did Lord Feng become like this? He clearly brought people over, but the other party just stood up, and then his subordinates started to rebel. Furthermore, he even punched and kicked Lord Feng, and afterward he mysteriously disappeared. Just what is going on? Ha, ha 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 ha. Feng Yun, who couldn't take the blow, suddenly let out a crazy laughter. This kind of laughter made people's hair stand on end, because this was a laughter that carried despair. The crazy Feng Yun laughed continuously, and then rushed out. His figure gradually disappeared, and that laughter of despair could still be heard. Qingye looked at her sister. Qing Yutong spread out her hands. I didn't know that this would happen either. So I have to ask my system. Just what is going on? Why did they all disappear? Master, the other party's system seems to have been threatened by my underling, so they chose to remove the binding. Qing Yutong was shocked. You still have underlings? That's right, master. In any case, I am also the big boss of the system world now. Qing Yutong. No wonder I was told to hug brother-in-law's thigh from the start, so he already had such a plan. This is truly impressive. The boss of the shop swallowed his saliva and secretly took a glance at Yihua. I feel that these people are not that easy to mess with. Look at Lord Feng, he is already scared to the point of going crazy. Who would dare to mess with him anymore? The organizing committee probably wouldn't dare to come after receiving such news. The organizing committee is not only stingy, They also bully the weak and fear the strong. They are a typical fence-sitter series. Yihua also didn't want to make a big deal out of this. After all, he came to pick up the children, so he should keep a low profile. The place that the children lived in was much higher class. After all, they were the trump cards of both parties. At the same time, they also felt a wave of doqi dispersing, expressing that they were very curious. Although they were curious, the children didn't take it to heart. They were currently preparing for tomorrow's battle. However, the current God Yi was not in the mood at all. Daddy's order was like a mountain, pressing down on him so much that he could not breathe. If it was to fight and kill, it would still be fine. But to ask me to chase after a girl, it is simply too difficult. God Yi was thinking if he should change his target. With that thought in mind, God Yi wanted to slap himself. How could he have such a thought? He had to know when to retreat. This is wrong. Hello, senior brother. Hello, senior brother. Hello, senior brother. God Yi walked in the Broken Pulse Sex Collective Inn. All the disciples there were there to participate in the battle. There was also a garden in the inn, so God Yi decided to try his luck. God Yi's luck was pretty good. He quickly discovered Lu Xian'er's whereabouts, but God Yi's expression turned a little sour. That was because Lu Xian'er was talking to a disciple. God Yi saw that the disciple's robe was bulging, so he must be muscular. Sure enough, Lu Xian'er liked muscular and dazed men. Look at him. He smiles when talking to others, but he keeps a straight face when talking to me. You're making me, God Yi, very unhappy. If Yi Yan were to teach God Yi's younger brother how to flirt with girls, perhaps God Yi would be able to get rid of singlehood. God Yi walked toward Lu Xian'er with a cold expression. Greetings, senior brother. The disciple standing in front of Lu Xian'er greeted respectfully. Although he was older than God Yi's backer was supreme everlasting hatred. In the academy, all disciples had to call him senior brother. Even some teachers had to be respectful. His backer was very powerful. However, Lu Xian'er did not like this kind of playboy. He was arrogant just because he was handsome and had a strong backer. Others might like you, God Yi, but I, Lu Xian'er, don't care. I have something to say to her. God Yi said coldly. Go ahead, senior brother. The disciple smiled apologetically. He felt that it was better to talk less to Lu Xian'er in the future to avoid provoking God Yi. Lu Xian'er glared at God Yi and asked coldly, God Yi, what do you want? Be my woman. Impossible. Why? God Yi questioned. If Yi Yan were there and saw the situation, he would definitely knock his younger brother's head. If you flirt like this, you'll never get a wife in this life. Don't you know that there are ways to flirt? Because I don't like you. Why don't you like me? Lu Xian'er was speechless. God Yi, I'm telling you, I, Lu Xian'er, will never be your woman. Even if all the men in this world die, I, Lu Xian'er, will never look for you. God Yi did not panic after hearing that. It seemed like his mother had said something like that in the past, but it was only a few days ago. How sweet. Xian'er, be my woman. God Yi suddenly reached out and grabbed Lu Xian'er's delicate hand. It was his first time touching a girl's hand. God Yi felt good. It was soft, much better than his sister's hands. Lu Xian'er did not expect God Yi to make such a frivolous move. She immediately slapped him. God Yi's strength was already very high. If he was given some time, he would definitely be on par with the 7 deadly sins. He grabbed Lu Xian'er's wrist and said in a deep voice, You want to hit me? That's right, you pervert. I'm a pervert. God Yi was instantly upset. Since when am I a pervert? If you're not a pervert, then what are you? God Yi was a little angry. I've been chasing you for so long, yet you don't give me any face at all. You even call me a pervert. Then I'll do what a pervert should do. Looking at those delicate red lips, God Yi kissed her in front of everyone's eyes. Lu Xian'er's eyes bulged and stared at God Yi. Meanwhile, God Yi also looked at Lu Xian'er's charming eyes. Although the two of them were kissing and everyone else had their eyes closed, they were looking at each other. It was as if it was not a kiss, but mainly a look at each other. It was God Yi's first time feeling a kiss. Soft lips with a hint of sweetness. So this is how kissing feels. Not bad, not bad. No wonder Daddy likes to kiss Mommy so much. However, God Yi frowned slightly after a while. A bloody taste spread in his mouth. Pervert! Lucienne shouted softly, then ran away while covering her face. God Yi wiped his lips. This woman actually bit me. I'm starting to like her a little. Men just like those that they can't get. Those that are easy to get, they won't care. God Yi glanced at the surrounding disciples. The disciples who were watching the commotion immediately turned around, indicating that they did not see anything. Chapter 1289. God Yi kept a straight face and walked toward his room. He would let Lucienne have a good look at his muscles tomorrow. On the other side, Yihua didn't plan to stay at any inn. He might as well choose a place within the maple forest and camp there. Not to mention, this place was very suitable for couples to date. It was just that the main body had already passed that stage, and had even developed to the stage of quarreling. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't have the mood to coax them anymore. Just let them do whatever they want. Lying on the comfortable recliner, Yihua smoked a cigarette. His subordinates were barbecuing in the back. They had eaten the sumptuous meal made by the blood demon for lunch, but they were still not satisfied. They still wanted the blood demon to barbecue more food. Right now, Yihua was currently thinking about what he should do after bringing the children back. Should he keep the children by his side, or continue to let them roam the world? If Donghuang Baiji were to continue adventuring outside, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji would most likely be unwilling to do so. However, Yihua thought in his heart, I reckon that if the children were to stay at home for a period of time, the mother wouldn't be able to take it anymore. As the saying goes, when the children are not around, I miss them. When the children are around, I want them to go out. Yihua let out a light breath, then picked up the wine cup at the side and took a sip. Right now, I, the Supreme Overlord, can really go and become a monk. If it wasn't for them needing me, I, the Supreme Overlord, wouldn't have taken the initiative. What was going on? Where did all the passion from back then go? I, the Supreme Overlord, can't be sick, right? Just thinking about it makes me a little scared. Could it be that there's something wrong with my mind? Do I need to see a therapist? It would be fine as long as he didn't go to the andrology department. Lowering his head to take a look, Yihua let out a breath. Your Honor, the chicken wings that you wanted are ready. Wei Chong walked over with the chicken wings. Yihua took over the chicken wing, and turned his head around to take a look. In the past, it was always them who came to deliver things to me, but right now, it was Wei Chong who came to deliver things to me. From this, it could be seen just how inflated these women are. Forget it. I, the Supreme Overlord, do not have the mood to care about this anymore. Just let them do whatever they want. After eating the chicken wing, Yihua's mood became a lot better. Standing up, Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then walked towards the darkness. Not long after, Yihua saw a figure. Renyao, what are you standing here for? Renyao giggled and even shook her body. Yihua said faintly, remember to wash your hands. Understood, Your Honor. Renyao eagerly ran back. As for washing my hands, that will depend on my mood. Yihua heard a plop sound, and turned his head around to take a look. Renyao had actually fallen onto the ground, and was twitching. Due to Renyao's usual behavior, it was very possible that she was just fooling around. Thus, Yihua didn't pay attention to her. However, after walking a few steps, Yihua stopped, turned around, and walked towards Renyao. What happened? Yihua asked gravely as he flipped Renyao's body over. Renyao's face was a bit pale, and even her lips were trembling. Yihua stretched out his palm, and emitted out a green halo of light that enveloped Renyao within. The green light naturally attracted the attention of the subordinates, and all of them ran over. Your Honor, what's wrong? Zhu Tian asked respectfully. Yihua shook his head and didn't say anything as he looked at Renyao, who was acting strangely. For so many years, Renyao did not have any abnormal behavior. Yihua feels that Renyao's abnormal behavior is most likely because of the guardian. Gradually, Renyao calmed down. However, her face looked as if she had lost too much blood. Yihua waited silently, and his subordinates didn't dare to say anything. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Renyao opened her eyes, and what entered her eyes were a lot of heads. She was so scared that she crossed her arms around her chest. You all? I don't. What are you thinking about? Yihua shouted coldly, and Ren Yao immediately stood up. Ren Yao looked as if she was suffering from hypoglycemia and was on the verge of collapsing. Yihua asked again, "What happened just now?" Ren Yao went into a daze. "Just now? What happened to me? Nothing much, I just feel a bit dizzy, that's all." Ren Yao rubbed her head. "I really feel a bit dizzy, and I don't remember anything that happened just now." "You don't remember anything?" Yihua asked. Ren Yao shook her head, expressing that she really doesn't remember. Yihua let out a breath, then continued walking towards the darkness while smoking his cigarette. The faint sparks gradually disappeared. "I feel that his honor is a bit strange," Lai Gu suddenly said. All of the subordinates nodded their heads. "In recent years, his honor is indeed a bit strange. He doesn't seem to be very happy. Could it be that it is because of his honor's wife?" All of the subordinates shifted their gaze towards the four madams. Qinya and the others pursed their lips. "What does this have to do with us? His honor couldn't have an endocrine disorder, right?" Qing Su said faintly. As a medical researcher, Qing Su raised his own opinion. Pig liver macaque rubbed onto his chin. "If that is really the case, is there any way to treat it?" Qing Su said in a deadpan manner. "That would definitely require yin and yang to be balanced. I will have to trouble the four madams." Qinya and the others' faces turned red, then turned around and left the scene. However, in the darkness, Yihua, who was hiding behind a tree, silently nodded his head. "Not bad, not bad. This Qing Su and Pig Liver Macaque are working together very well. Whether or not I can fly tonight, I will be able to find out in a while." The morning of Maple Forest Valley was a bit cold, but as the sun shone down, it gave off a kind of warmth. Yihua twisted his neck, indicating that he felt comfortable. "This trick seems to be not bad, but I can't use it too often. I have to change to another trick." If Qinya were to answer, "What is the longest road that you have walked on?" then Qinya would definitely say, "The longest road that I have walked on." And that is Yihua's trick. Today was the first day of the competition. Yihua woke up very early and was very excited. After all, he was going to be able to see the children very soon. From this point, it could be seen that Yihua's love towards the children was no less than Qinya and the others, just that he didn't show it. Men have different ways of expressing themselves. However, regarding Ren Yao's abnormality last night, Yihua kept it in his heart. "I feel that this year won't be that peaceful anymore. Perhaps those guardians are starting to take action. However, right now the children are still the most important. After so many years, I am really looking forward to seeing how the children have grown up." The martial arts competition venue this time is very environmentally friendly. That is, in the air. The martial arts competition venue can be said to be even more environmentally friendly, and the only thing that can be seen is the air. The venue is simply stingy to the extreme. Not using the stage, the seats are just air. Booing sounds could be heard from the scene. This organizing committee is really trash. Don't they even have this bit of money? Although we are going to be sitting in the air, from this angle, we are still able to admire the entire Maple Forest Valley. Yihua feels that this arrangement is not bad. Right now, we just have to wait for the children to appear. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji were very nervous, and they were even tightly holding on to Yihua's hands. "We have been separated for 12 years. This is not just 12 days. The longing for their mother gushed out like a flood, and even Qinya and Donghuang Baiji felt that. Chapter 1290. If the children were to appear now, I would not be able to hold back the longing in my heart and immediately rush up, hug the children, and tell them how much mommy misses you. And your father forbids us to go and watch. Just that Yihua's current nervousness was no less than theirs. I will be able to see the children soon. The subordinates watched the children grow up. Although it was only a short few years, they still missed them a lot. Especially Ali and Yen they had more contact with the children, while Godyi and Yi Lu had less contact. The children back then have all grown up now. I am really looking forward to it. The number of people who came to watch the battle reached more than 100,000. They sat in layers in the sky, forming a dense mass. Everyone. All kinds of seniors. The annual martial arts competition will begin in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. This year is different from the past. Meridian Break Sect. Shin Academy will be sending out their strongest trump card. Just whose trump card will be the strongest, let us wait and see. First, participants, please come onto the stage. First, Shin Academy. This host is not bad, at least that is what Yihua feels. However, right now Qingye was a bit more nervous. My son and daughter are both inside the Deity Academy, and I will be able to see them soon. I wonder how they are right now. So excited. I wonder if Yen is what they said. If it is true, I will have to give him a good scolding, of all people to learn from. Why must he learn from your father and become a scumbag? Right now, Yi Yan and Yi Lu were standing at the side of the team. They were naturally the last to appear. Luer, are you nervous? It has been 12 years. You will be able to see big sister and little brother soon. Yi Yan said with a slight smile. Although he wanted to get first place and receive his father's praise, he still had brotherly feelings in his heart. Thinking about his childhood with big sister, Yi Yan revealed a happy smile. Back then, he and big sister went around causing trouble everywhere. I was really happy back then. But as we grew up, it seems that some things can't be done anymore. Big sister is already a big girl now, right? When the time comes, Mom will definitely urge us to get married. And Godye's little brother, that ice lump, I heard that he is still an ice lump. He did not change at all. It's all right. Yi Lu said lightly. Although she said it was all right, she was actually very happy in her heart. She was going to be able to see big sister and big brother soon. Although they were enemies, she was still very excited. Can't you just open your heart, as expected of the cold goddess? Yi Yan teased. Yi Lu rolled her eyes at her brother and snorted. Only to see deity institution's disciples gradually walk out, arriving at the center of the competition arena. There weren't that many people, just a dozen or so, all of them deity institution's elites. Right now, Yihua and Qingye were closely staring at the scene, looking for their children. Yihua, where are the children? Qingye was anxious as she tightly held on to Yihua's hand. Yihua was also very confused, and even a bit angry. Where did the children go? Yihua looked towards Zhu Tian, seemingly asking, is this your job as an intelligence officer? Zhu Tian immediately lowered his head. What's going on? Why isn't little Honor among them? The whole audience booed. The gimmick of this competition was the battle of trump cards. Now that the trump cards had not been seen, they would definitely be unhappy. The host who was standing in the void shouted, "Are you confused? Everyone, don't be anxious. Right now, we have invited 2 young experts from the deity institution." Applause. However, there was no applause. The atmosphere was a little stiff, and there was even a hint of nervousness. This was the first time it had been revealed to the world. Yihua and Qingye let out a sigh of relief. So it turns out that the children are going to appear at the finale. 2 figures slowly walked out from the crowd. At this moment, Qingye saw her children, and she immediately covered her face with her hands, and tears of excitement flowed out from her eyes. It has been 12 years. I have finally seen Yen and Luer. Mom really misses you too. Look at Yen, he has grown taller. So tall. He is even as tall as Yihua now. Furthermore, he looks so handsome. And my own Luer, she is so beautiful. As Qingye cried and cried, Qingye laughed, and after laughing, Qingye cried again. Crying and laughing at the same time is probably how Qingye is described. Yihua looked at the 2 children, and he was also extremely excited in his heart. However, as the boss, I can't show my emotions, I have to remain calm. Yen, this child, is almost catching up to me. And Luer, this appearance, as expected of my daughter, I have nothing to say. When the subordinates saw the appearance of the 2 children, they were all very excited and started whispering to each other. When the surrounding audience saw Yi Yan and Yi Lu, they all cried out in surprise. After all, the appearance of the 2 children is really too high. However, after Yi Yan opened his folding fan, the entire audience immediately quietened down. Even Qingye, who was crying tears of joy, was dumbfounded. The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched slightly. Scumbag. Yi Yan liked the current scene very much. Look at me opening my folding fan, these people are all stunned. Just that, Yi Yan was completely unaware that among these people, there was even his father and mother present. If Yi Yan were to know, he would definitely burn the folding fan. This little bastard, he really became a scumbag. Qingye said while panting with anger. Like father, like son. Indeed, that saying is true. Although Yihua was a bit surprised, he didn't say anything. Scumbag is always better than being scumbag by others. My children can only be scumbags. Yan is not bad, to be able to comprehend this logic. However, Yan just wanted to say, Dad, I really didn't think that much. I was just purely thinking about scumbags, that's all. However, Donghuang Baiji said lightly, perhaps, Yan received a blow from something, that's why he became like this. Blow? Qingye asked confusedly. Big sister, if Yan was abandoned by a girl and wanted to take revenge, this possibility is still possible. Qing Yutong said. After hearing that, Qingye thought about it carefully. That's possible. My Yan was actually abandoned by a girl. Yihua felt that he had to ask Yan carefully. If Yan was really abandoned by a girl, I will have to properly teach him a lesson. The men of Yi family only know how to abandon others. How can they be abandoned by others? That doesn't exist. Following after Yi Yan and Yi Lu walked onto the stage, the entire audience burst into cheers. Yi Yan waved his folding fan and walked with an uncaring gait, causing Qingye to explode in anger. Even Yihua doesn't know how to walk like this. Seems like my son has learned bad things. Look at your son. He has become a bad child now. Qingye said angrily. Yan isn't your son. Yihua said faintly. This caused Qingye to be angered, and she pinched Yihua with all her might. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows. I really want to properly teach Qingye a lesson. Qingye is becoming more and more unreasonable. Even if she is going through menopause, she still shouldn't act like this. Next, let's welcome the disciples of Broken Meridian sect. Donghuang Li and God Yi were naturally going to be the finale. Chapter 1291. Aya, I'm finally going to see Yan. I heard that Yan has become a scumbag. I'm really curious to see how much of a scumbag Yan has become. Donghuang Li said with a slight smile. Compared to when she was young, Donghuang Li appeared to be a lot more mature. God Yi said nothing. In the past, he often thought about competing with his sister, but now he was thinking about how to deal with Lu Xiener and complete his father's mission. Why? Are you still thinking about Xian? I heard from Xian. That you kissed her yesterday? God Yi replied calmly. Not bad, you have finally improved. You are a man, you should take the initiative. Donghuang Li patted onto her little brother's shoulder. Donghuang Li has finally been enlightened. However, the way you are dressed today, big sister feels that it is a bit unsightly to my eyes. Donghuang Li couldn't help but say, the clothes that little brother is wearing today is actually a camisole. This is simply showing off my muscles. God Yi said in a deep voice. In order to complete Daddy's mission, I have no choice but to go all out. Donghuang Li nearly laughed out loud. When did Daddy have such a mission? You must be the one who came up with this mission yourself, right? Work hard then. Donghuang Li said with a smile. Along with the sound coming from outside, both Donghuang Li and God Yi walked out. Right now, Donghuang Baiji was very excited, and her actions were exactly the same as Qingye's. Both of her hands were covering her cheeks, and tears of joy flowed out from her eyes. My Ali has become so much taller, has become so much prettier, has become so much prettier. Right now he has become a big beauty, and also has a spirit, so handsome. He is just as handsome as his father, and even that expression of his is exactly the same as his father. But Shunner's clothes, why are they so revealing? Yihua looked at Ali and smiled. After all, Ali was his first child. Back then, Ali was brought back by the Green and Red brothers. Back then, Ali was only 3 years old. Ali was such an adorable child. In the blink of an eye, my Ali had become a big girl. He couldn't hug Ali like when he was young. And Ali couldn't act like a spoiled child in his arms like when he was young. God Ye's child's personality was actually so similar to the deities. However, this attire. I, the Supreme Overlord, look at you. Why do you look so much like a gay? All the subordinates were attracted by God Ye's attire. That was too fashionable. It didn't seem to be mainstream. It was not just Yihua and the others, but the entire audience was looking at God Ye as well. His attire was indeed a little weird. Even Luciener took a few more glances at Godyi. Could this guy have suffered some kind of blow? Godyi noticed Luciener's gaze. As expected, this woman likes muscular men. She's fallen for it. Right now, Yihua was sighing in his heart. My two sons, one of them turned into a scumbag, and the other turned into a gay. I really want to beat the shit out of the two of them. Luckily, my two daughters are still considered normal. Right now, Dong Huangli felt that there was an unusual gaze on her, and she used her gaze to look over. Immediately, he was startled in his heart. This man, could he be my father? It feels so familiar. And the woman beside me, could it be that she is my mother? And those people behind me, every single one of them is very familiar to me. Dong Huangli hurriedly retracted her gaze. Dong Huangli was a bit nervous in her heart. Although I'm not very sure, I'm at least 90% sure. Father and mother are here. He definitely came to look at my achievements during these few years. Looking at her brother's attire, Dong Huangli felt that she was finished. Very soon, Dong Huangli and Godyi walked to the front. The four children finally met, but they only nodded in greeting. Although I really want to go over and hug them, I'm not allowed to do that right now. Dong Huangli looked at Yi Yan. This little brother. When we were young, he was my follower. Look at him now, he is so handsome, and he is even taller than big sister. Little brother, father and mother are at the scene. You are really courting death. Yi Yan looked at his big sister, and had a smile on his face. When we were young, big sister brought your little brother to act cool, and in the future, little brother will bring big sister to act cool. Yi Lu looked at her big brother Godyi. When we were young, we would often spar with each other, and there had never been a victor. The victor is about to be decided. It's just that big brother's attire today is indeed a bit of an eyesore compared to back then. There is a huge difference. Godyi looked at his little sister Yi Lu, and battle intent immediately appeared in his heart. As a big brother, how can I lose to my little sister? After not seeing each other for so many years, let us reunite through a battle. This time big brother will not go easy on me. Yihua could tell from the children's aura that these little fellows have very strong battle intent. Not bad, the grouping that I made back then was not wrong. These siblings are very harmonious. If I didn't do that back then, Dong Huangli would be close to Yi Yan, and Godyi would be close to Yi Lu. The current situation made them even more united, and it was also within Yihua's expectations. In actuality, Yihua didn't want the children to do any quests. He just wanted the children to have a closer relationship with each other, and not have a gap between them. These things, what do these women know? Next up was the grouping, drawing lots. Of course, it was also possible for the children to draw their own people. After all, infighting had happened before. However, for the strong children, cheating was something that could be done in a matter of minutes. As for the other opponents, the children ignored them. Very quickly, the result of the drawing lots was revealed. Godyi was the first to go up, and his opponent was a disciple from Shin Academy. This made Yi Lu a bit puzzled. What does big brother mean by this? He doesn't want to fight with me. Of course, Godyi wanted to fight with Yi Lu, just that he didn't want to fight with Yi Lu. Rather, he wanted to let Luciener see just how developed my muscles are, and that I definitely won't let you down. Dong Huangli was also a bit puzzled. She wanted to fight with Yi Yan to see just how much Yi Yan had improved during these few years. However, Yi Yan's opponent was actually one of his own people, Lin Cheng. Yi Yan didn't have any other intentions. After all, he was about to leave. After so many years, this Lin Cheng had always wanted to fight with him, and thus, Yi Yan decided to grant Lin Cheng's wish. Dong Huangli's opponent was changed to Mu Gao. Dong Huangli naturally knew about Mu Gao. Back then, when she had just entered Meridian Break Sect, it was precisely this Mu Gao who tested her and her little brother. Dong Huangli naturally knew what Mu Gao meant. All along Mu Gao had liked me, that's all. It's a pity. You aren't my type. This is also good. In any case, I am going to leave soon, so I might as well let this battle end. You should change to another girl that you like. Godyi seems to be chasing after a girl. For him to dress like this, he couldn't possibly be trying to please a girl, right? Qingye asked curiously. How is that possible? Although so many years have passed, Godyi shouldn't be doing such a thing, right? Dong Huang Baiji felt that this wasn't the case. Does my son look like the kind of man who tries to please a girl? Chapter 1292. Yi Hua said faintly, "How could my son possibly go and try to please a woman? If that is really the case, break his legs." "Give it a try," Dong Huang Baiji said. All of His Honor's subordinates who were sitting at the back had a slightly strange expression on their faces. This is much more interesting than being in the imperial palace. His Honor and His Honor's wife's quarrel is especially interesting. At that moment, Qingya's eyes were on the Meridian Break Sex team, and she noticed Lu Xian'er's existence. Compared to the other girls, Lu Xian'er was still more outstanding. Therefore, Qingya guessed in her heart that the girl Godyi liked might be her. From the looks of it, he was a good match for Godyi. He had a good temperament and a good height. "Baiji, look at that girl. Does Godyi like her?" Qingya asked Lu Xian. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Lu Xian'er. Dong Huang Baiji felt that this girl was not bad, right? However, she was merely not bad. After all, Dong Huang Baiji was a mother. Dong Huang Baiji still had some requirements for her daughter-in-law. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji did not understand Dong Huang Baiji. "What do you think?" Qingya asked curiously. "That depends on the girl's personality," Dong Huang Baiji said lightly. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was still very important. Qingya nodded her head. "Indeed. Since my Yan-er is looking for a wife, I have to take a look at her too. But by the looks of Yan-er right now, it seemed like she was having a headache as well." Yi Hua naturally heard the conversation between the two women, and looked towards Lu Xian'er. If it was in the past, Yi Hua would definitely look down on Lu Xian'er. However, after experiencing the incident with Yi Hua had gotten over it. As long as the children like Lu Xian'er, it would be fine. As long as the children like Lu Xian'er, it would be fine. These parents were all sizing up Lu Xian'er. However, Lu Xian'er had no idea that she had been targeted. The first battle was Godye's turn. The audience was looking forward to Godye's performance to see if it was as the rumors said. If it was not, they would be booing. Godye's opponent was a disciple from Deity Institution, but that disciple was currently a little afraid. Why was his luck so good to actually encounter Meridian Break Sex #1 expert? However, as the #1 expert, how could he dress like this? It was really unbecoming of the #1 expert. Even though he had lost his composure, this disciple was still very fearful. "Begin." Following the referee's command, the battle between the two sides immediately began. However, Godyi suddenly let out an angry roar, and a noble spirit swept through the scene. He clenched his fists tightly, and the muscles all over his body began to gradually expand. However, he had no intention of attacking, giving off the impression that he was teasing others. The disciple stood foolishly in the void, looking at Godyi in front of him while fiddling with his muscles. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that the #1 expert of the Meridian Breaking sect was trying to seduce him? Why did he do that? Or was it because he was a homosexual? Not only this disciple, but many others felt the same way. My jaw is about to drop to the ground. The martial arts competition has already started, and even after 10 seconds, you are already fiddling with your muscles, or perhaps you are squirming your muscles, acting for the man in front of you to see. The #1 expert of the Meridian Breaking sect really lived up to his reputation. Dong Huangli looked at her younger brother's current appearance, and covered her face with her hand. "This idiot, do you really have to be so brazen? Daddy and Mommy are both at the scene. Are you going to be slapped to death? Even if you want to wiggle your muscles, you don't have to be so obvious." Lu Xian'er looked at Godyi with her eyes and mouth wide open. "He said that he likes me, but I'm so angry." At that moment, Yi Yan and Yi Lu were both dumbfounded. When did Godyi become like this? It's so exciting, this idiot's attributes are full of comical, awesome. Dong Huang Baiji clenched her fists tightly, wishing that she could tie up her son and bring him back. What is he doing? When did he become like this? The subordinates were also dumbfounded. If Godyi was given an iron rod, he would definitely be able to dance. Yi Hua slightly narrowed his eyes. As expected of my son, this coquettishness is really bursting. At that moment, Godyi secretly glanced at Lu Xian'er. and realized that the other party was looking at him. She was dumbfounded. Big sister was right, Lucien likes muscular men. This vulgar woman doesn't have any inner qualities at all. However, that doesn't matter. All I have to do is complete my father's mission. However, the mission is not complete yet. I still have to work hard. Suddenly, Godyi made his move. Everyone cried out in surprise. The #1 expert of Broken Pulse sect finally made his move. The other party actually did not react at all. Too fast. Too fast. However, in the next second, everyone was dumbfounded. Godyi made a striking posture, revealing the lines of his muscles. This time, he was even more like this disciple. This made everyone feel that Godyi was trying to gain this disciple's favor. The disciple looked at Godyi, and his scalp felt a little numb. He was showing off his biceps, and he even showed me his shark lines. My God! Why do I feel like vomiting? Yihua! Don't stop me, I want to go and beat this stinking brat up. Donghuang Baiji immediately went berserk. This is simply throwing my face into outer space. Even without Yihua teaching me a lesson, I want to beat this stinking brat up myself. Let's watch first. Yihua said indifferently. Qinya pulled Donghuang Baiji down as well. Godyi is a sensible child, he wouldn't do this for no reason. All of the subordinates felt that, if that is the case, then his honor. The disciple couldn't take it anymore and immediately threw a punch at God Yihua. Everyone quickly look. Shen Academy's disciple actually made his move. Although his speed and strength aren't that great, the strange God Yi actually didn't dodge. Is this the power of love, or is it some other factor? Let us wait and see. The host said with an excited tone. Donghuang Baiji wished that she could twist the host's head off. The power of love. The punch landed ruthlessly on God Ye's abdomen. However, God Yi took this opportunity to show off the muscles on his back. He thought to himself that from Lu Xiener's angle, she should be able to see it clearly. I am also a muscular man. Although my muscles aren't very inflated, it is definitely comfortable to look at. Who asked you to be a superficial woman? There's no helping it. Quickly look. Broken Pulse Sect's God Yi chose to receive the punch, then made a strange posture. Look at the lines of his muscles. Could it be that God Yi is planning to use his own body to confuse the enemy? Looks like he has already reached the highest realm of martial arts, fighting with his brain. Yihua. Donghuang Baiji said angrily. How is this using his brain? He has no brain. Chapter 1293. Baiji, calm down. Our sons are not easy to deal with. Qinya let out a long sigh. Fortunately, my two daughters are still considered to be normal people, and this can be considered as a kind of consolation for me. Yihua will definitely have to take the blame for my son becoming like this. Right now, Yihua didn't want to make any statement. I'll say it after I finish looking at it. Donghuang Li turned her head around and took a peek at Lucien, and she discovered that Lucien seemed to be about to spit out fire. What's going on? Now there was a wave of hissing sounds. They were not satisfied with this kind of battle. This was simply like playing house, there was not the slightest bit of interest. However, God Yi did not care at all. Compared to the mission, some mockery was nothing. He would teach them a lesson in the future. How dare you mock me, God Yi? He could only repent for today's mistakes in hell. I admit defeat. Just as God Yi was about to show off his abdominal muscles, the disciple finally could not take it anymore. The other party actually used such a tactic to make him surrender. It was simply despicable. Damn it. The audience was silent. The host finally reacted and shouted, Congratulations to Meridian Break Sect's God Yi for taking the first victory. He defeated his opponent with his own muscles, preventing him from fighting normally. As expected of Meridian Break Sect's trump card, he's so powerful. Everyone. God Yi looked at the disciple in front of him, and the latter immediately shrank back. Run now. No one expected that under God Yi's frenzied bombardment, this disciple would actually flee in defeat, which caused a loud roar of laughter. The faces of Shen Academy's side were gloomy, and so were the Meridian Breaking Sects. Just when everyone thought it was over, God Yi suddenly pointed at Lu Xiener. This action caused everyone to stop talking. Yi Hua and the others looked at God Yi. This little bastard has done quite a lot of things today. For so many years. Is this the kind of report card you show me? It's a straight fail. Lucien, don't you like muscular men? Have you been conquered by my muscles? You don't need to tell me. I understand that girls should be more reserved. From now on, you are my woman. God, Yi shouted loudly, which made Lucienne feel like she had lost her soul. She had no idea where she was or what her name was. When she liked muscular men, but he actually said in front of so many people that she was his woman. How dare he destroy his own reputation? You even made yourself sound so vulgar. Liking muscular men? You're the one liking muscular men. Facing his son's confession, Yi Hua and the others were very surprised. This girl is really someone that God Yi likes. Furthermore, his actions just now were just to gain the girl's favor. Oh my God, Dong Huang Baiji didn't know why, but Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. As long as my son doesn't go in another direction, everything will be fine. So it turns out that Dong Huang Baiji is only acting in front of a girl. Yi Lu looked at her big brother and tightly wrinkled her eyebrows. Big brother actually confessed to me in this kind of situation. Is this still the big brother that I knew in the past? Why was he so flirtatious? No wonder he didn't want to fight with me in the first round. So that's what he wanted. He's really like my brother, a scumbag. Yi Yan felt that right now, this younger brother of his will be able to catch up to me, to actually confess to me on the spot, and furthermore, it was very domineering. TSK. Impossible. At that moment, the host laughed loudly. It seems that our expert did it on purpose just now. He wanted to show off his muscles in front of the girl he loves. It turns out that this girl likes muscular men. That's why God Yi is dressed like this. I have to say, it takes a lot of courage to dress like this on such an occasion. This Lucien is really lucky. Don't you think so? Yi Yan shouted out loudly. That's right, give her a kiss. Yi Yan really knows how to lead the crowd. Following Yi Yan's shout, everyone started shouting out as well. Very quickly, it became 100,000 people shouting out loudly. Lucien was really unable to handle this kind of situation. A smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. My son is not bad. His method of chasing after girls is really unique. Brother-in-law, look at God Yi, he's so good at being romantic. Qing Yutong suddenly said softly at the side. Qian Yuqing pursed her lips. Yi Hua seems to have never treated me like this before. Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji recalled. This fellow doesn't seem to have ever treated me like this before. Look at your son, he's so much stronger than you. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but say. Yi Hua didn't say anything. We're already an old couple. Why do we still want to be romantic? On the stage, God Yi slowly landed in front of Lucien. However, right now Lucien face was completely red. Don't misunderstand, this was not caused by shyness. This was caused by anger. Xiang. Dong Huangli let out a light sigh. At this crucial moment, I still need big sister to help you. After all, daddy and mommy are both here. If Lucien were to reject little brother at this moment, daddy might not be happy. No matter what, Lucien is sleeping in the same room as me. With so many years of feelings, how could daddy bear to reject her? Thus, with a light push of his palm, Lucien immediately felt a force pushing her from behind, pushing her into God Ye's embrace. In the eyes of others, this kind of situation looked like she was taking the initiative. God Ye was astonished. So I was tricked. This woman's tricks are so deep. To actually play hard to get, forget it. You've been wanting to do this for a long time, right? God Ye said softly. Lucien was currently in a daze. She had no idea what was going on at all, and she didn't even hear what God Ye said. However, that seemed to be a tacit agreement. I didn't expect that God Ye would be able to hug the beauty. Furthermore, the beauty seems to be taking the initiative. Let us congratulate them. Yi Hua applauded. Not bad, it's just like me back then. God Ye held onto Lucien shoulder, then waved at everyone. Lucien was dumbfounded. Dong Huangli revealed a smile. Brother, big sister can only help you this much, you idiot. Yi Lu was also feeling happy for her brother. Not bad. Yi Yan had a smile on his face. It was unknown whether he was envious or not. However, the competition continued. At that moment, Yihua said faintly, "What do you guys think of this girl?" "We'll see." Dong Huang Baiji was the first to express her opinion. After all, she was her daughter-in-law. Qingya said softly, "I feel that as long as she listens to God Yi, there shouldn't be much of a problem. There's nothing wrong with big sister's words. After all, girls have to be obedient." Qing Yutong agreed. However, at that moment Yihua interrupted. "Oh, you actually know about the principle of women having to be obedient?" The four women rolled their eyes at the same time. "That's not directed at you, all right? However, I feel that this girl won't be too bad. Since God Yi has taken a fancy to her, she should have something special about her, right?" Qian Yuqing raised her opinion. "Yuqing is right." Yihua supported Qian Yuqing's opinion. Chapter 1294. Your Honor, do you want subordinate to go and take a look? The pig-liver Deng Long, who was sitting at the back, asked respectfully. Yihua said faintly, "Forget it, there's nothing much to investigate. Identity and whatnot isn't important, it's fine as long as the person is good." Everyone was speechless, seemingly thinking of Yi from 12 years ago. The atmosphere was a bit sentimental. This kind of thing only happened once. There was no need for it to happen a second time. Now that his younger brother was about to return, he didn't know if he could keep it a secret. Even if he could satisfy him for a while, he couldn't keep it a secret for a long time. However, now that little brother knew that he had a son, he should be happy. That Gong Yu also had it hard. She had raised a child by herself for 12 years, and had always been well-behaved. Time could explain a person very well. Gong Yu could be considered a good woman. If I, the Supreme Overlord, were to leave for 12 years, wouldn't Qingya and the others die from complaining? Sigh. I can't even compare myself with them. Very quickly, it was Yi Yan's turn. His opponent was naturally Lin Cheng. As Yi Yan walked onto the stage, as his father, Yihua naturally had to properly watch the match. How do you guys think Little Honor will win? Lai Gu, who was sitting at the back, asked curiously. Instant kill, Wei Chong said softly. Yi Zizi propped up her chin and said calmly, "How boring is it to instantly kill your opponent?" When Ren Yao, who was at the side, heard what Yihua said, she thought to herself, since there is no meaning in insta-killing your opponent, why did you insta-kill me back then? You devil who says one thing but means another. Indeed, there's no meaning in instantly killing your opponent. You have to torture your opponent. Qing Su said indifferently. His body didn't change at all. It seemed like he was addicted to being fat. Do you think everyone is as perverted as you? Pig Liver Ho couldn't help but tease. Qing Su didn't think much of it. If you want to inflict the most painful damage on your opponent, you can't solve the problem in one go. On the other hand, Yihua felt that what Qing Su said was quite right. Looking at his son's arrogant expression, Yihua let out a light sigh. If one were to ask who had changed the most among the children, it would definitely be Yi Yan. Match start. Following the referee's shout, the battle between the two began. Yihua, today I will let everyone know. I, Lin Cheng, can defeat you. Lin Cheng didn't hold any weapons, but he seemed very confident. He even pointed his index finger at Yi Yan and shouted. Yi Yan waved his folding fan. The two big words on the folding fan were very eye-catching. Of course, there was also the flute at his waist. Lin Cheng, you've always wanted to beat me since you were young, but you've never been able to. What's the motivation that has kept you going until now? Yi Yan was a little confused. Generally speaking, if one suffered such a blow when they were young, they would definitely be traumatized. However, this guy wasn't even knocked down. Instead, he worked even harder. But sometimes hard work might not necessarily be rewarded, and talent is also very important. Just like me, Yi Yan, I am the son of a supreme overlord. From the moment he was born, his life was like a cheat that no one could stop him. Lin Cheng snorted coldly. What motivation? That is the motivation to defeat you. I can't wait for every day to be a little longer, so that I can cultivate a little longer. If you defeat me, what will you get? Yi Yan asked indifferently. Got it. You took away my dignity, I will defeat you. Take back my dignity from your hands. Yan was puzzled. When did I take away your dignity? You can't slander a person like this. This was slander. Slander in front of so many people. This is simply a shameless action. Who likes to take away your dignity? This is such a headache. Lin Cheng, you have to think about what you are saying. I don't have the hobby of taking away other people's dignity. If you say, taking away dignity because I can't defeat you, then how much dignity would I have to take away? Don't be so narrow-minded, be more magnanimous. As a man, you have to be able to pick up and let go. Yi Yan had a look of arrogance as he lectured Lin Cheng. To actually stand on the moral high ground and criticize me. When I was young, I wasn't this shameless. Lin Cheng's expression became sinister. I trained bitterly for so many years, all for this moment. To defeat you in front of so many people. And furthermore, I only used one move. One move? When everyone heard what Lin Cheng said, they all became a bit absent-minded. Although they had never seen Yi Yan's strength before, this Lin Cheng was still a very powerful young man. And yet, he actually said that he only used one move to defeat Yi Yan. It wasn't that he didn't have any credibility. Perhaps he might really be able to make a comeback and become the dark horse this time. Then become famous throughout the world. Hearing Lin Cheng's words, Yi Hua smiled slightly. If you are able to insta-kill Yan in one move, I, the Supreme Overlord, will take you in as my little brother. Qinya expressed that she was angry. This child is really too arrogant to actually dare to speak such arrogant words. Oh, really just one move? Yi Yan asked with a surprised look on his face. I didn't expect that after so many years, Lin Cheng would become so arrogant. After winning for a few years, he can become so arrogant? Lin Cheng stood up straight, stared at Yi Yan and said gravely, this move of mine is specially made for you. It took me 10 years. Today, I can finally use it. What you mean is that you are going to use a big move right from the start. What if you can't kill me with this move? Yi Yan couldn't help but ask. Who would use a big move right from the start? Only newbies would do that. However, Lin Cheng seemed to be very confident. This move of mine is more than enough to make you return in defeat. Lin Cheng, do you know how to play landlord? Yi Yan suddenly changed the topic, catching everyone off guard. After Yi Hua and the others heard what Yi Yan said, they were also very puzzled. Just what is this Yan trying to say? Landlord. Lin Cheng expressed that he did not know. However, Yi Yan did not pay attention to Yi Yan's words. Do you know why the king bomb is always used at the end? This is the same logic as well. Hearing what his son said, Yi Hua went into a daze. Not only Yi Hua, even his subordinates went into a daze. That makes so much sense. Why isn't it the king bomb at the beginning? Rather, it should be used at the end. Little Sovereign actually spoke the truth. Yi Hua felt that Yan did not live these past few years in vain. To actually comprehend the logic behind landlord, not bad, as expected of my eldest son. Qinya felt very helpless. At such a young age, he is already starting to ponder about landlord, and even king bomb. How am I supposed to teach him? This is so vexing. Hearing that, Lin Cheng was also confused. Don't talk about these useless things. Are you afraid in your heart? Are you afraid that you are going to lose to me later? You misunderstood. I am just afraid that you are unable to accept the truth. Hearing Yi Yan's indifferent tone, Lin Cheng became very angry. The thing that he disliked the most was Yi Yan's tone. It was as if he was the number one in the world. You will suffer my wrath and stare at my back from the abyss. After finished speaking, Lin Cheng shouted out in anger, and Do Qi suddenly erupted from his entire body. Everyone cried out in surprise. This Do Qi actually reached the level of a spirit ancestor. Chapter 1295. Last year he was only a spirit emperor. In just a short year, he actually reached the spirit ancestor realm at such a young age. In the future his achievements will be no small matter. This Yi Yan is very dangerous. Towards the true strength that Lin Cheng displayed, everyone was very surprised. In actuality, Lin Cheng had been keeping a low profile all these years. However, today was the day that he would be showing off. Even Yi Hua had to admit that this Lin Cheng's talent was indeed not bad. To be able to reach the realm of Dozong at such a young age. Among those of the same age, he could be considered as outstanding. However, it was still a pity. After all, Lin Cheng's opponent was his own son. Furthermore, he had to choose Yi Yan as his opponent. This battle was destined to be a losing one. The Duki that erupted from Lin Cheng swept across the entire sky. No matter how powerful a Dozong was, they could still change the sky. Just like right now, a layer of black clouds enveloped the sky, giving off a strong sense of oppression. Yi Yan slightly raised his head and looked at the sky, then pursed his lips. What a showy scene. However, when Lin Cheng saw Yi Yan's disdainful gaze once again, the anger in his chest increased exponentially, and the pressure on him continued to increase. Everyone. Lin Cheng. This is Lin Cheng of Shen Academy. To be able to reach the realm of Dozong at such a young age, this is something that we did not expect. However, the trump card of Shen Academy is Yi Yan. I reckon that he is also in the realm of Dozong. It seems like a dramatic scene is about to appear in the internal battle of Shen Academy. Whether it will be a beautiful counterattack or a tragic end, let us wait and see. In Meridian Breaksex camp, God Yi had already let go of Lucien. Meanwhile, Lucien-er's face was currently red. Of course, this was because she was angry. Everyone thought that she was God Ye's woman. This bastard. However, there was still an ordinary youngster in the camp, and that was Mu Gao. He had liked Dong Huangli for a long time. Just now, when he saw that God Ye's confession was successful, he thought to himself, should I also imitate God Yi and confess to Dong Huangli? This Lin Cheng is quite something. Dong Huangli said softly. God Yi nodded his head. Among those of the same age, this Lin Cheng can be considered outstanding. Unfortunately, he ran into Yi Yan. You make it sound like you're very powerful. Lucien couldn't help but say. God Yi turned to look at Lucien and said faintly, Xian, now that you're my girlfriend, you should understand that you must listen to me and never question my decisions. Do you understand? Since it's your first time, I'll let it go. Don't make the same mistake again. Lucien was so angry that she laughed. Who said I want to be your girlfriend? Everyone saw it just now. I know you're a little shy, so I don't blame you. I understand. It's so beautiful. Don't talk. Lucien was speechless. At the scene, Lin Cheng's battle energy had reached its peak. He was ready to unleash his ultimate move. Yi Yan. This is my own creation. Prepare for the baptism. Oh, you can even create your own? Yi Yan was slightly surprised. Self-creation wasn't a joke. It might even cause him to explode to death. It seemed like Lin Cheng was indeed capable. Lin Cheng said nothing and suddenly pressed his palms together. Pa! A shockwave spread out from his hands, and a strong wind howled. Thunder and lightning crackled and rumbled as he sensed the world around him. With my life, I punish the evil spirit. Your efforts are futile. Call for me again. Divine Book 101 Death Song. The entire place was silent, especially on the side of the Shen Academy. Because the Divine Book only had 100 chapters at most, this Lin Cheng actually created 101 chapters. How could this not be shocking? The Divine Book was written by someone above the supreme level. It was the Shen Academy's strongest attack. The higher the number, the more powerful it was. After Yi Hua saw it, he frowned slightly. This Divine Book was indeed not bad. Qing Yutong felt that this Shen Academy was very similar to the Heavenly Ceiling ghost chart that she encountered in Water City back then. They were both very powerful Dao techniques. It should be Dao techniques, but she didn't really understand. However, in the entire team, it seemed like no one knew this Dao technique. Therefore, Yi Hua allowed Yi Yan and Yi Lu to go to the Deity Academy to study. At the scene, countless golden rays of light condensed around Yi Yan. Every single golden ray of light brought along a terrifying aura. Yi Yan slightly narrowed his eyes and waved his folding fan. Lin Cheng, you are indeed not bad. I have to praise you. Yi Yan really wanted to praise Lin Cheng. He wasn't joking because Lin Cheng really created his own technique. On the basis of the Divine Book, he added his own technique. This idea was indeed not bad. His talent was also very shocking. Praise me? I don't need your praise. Lin Cheng said coldly. Beads of sweat had already appeared on his forehead. It was clear that this technique was a bit strenuous for him. Yi Yan lightly laughed. This song shouldn't be finished yet, right? Lin Cheng's gaze darkened. It was clear that Yi Yan was right. After the Divine Book 90 chapters, the song requires a lot of time and the number of words is quite high. The power of your death song is indeed not bad, but it is still not the peak. If this song is not perfected, it won't work. However, I was thinking, it's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't do it. Look at you now, you are already very tired. Hearing Yi Yan's words, Lin Cheng's expression didn't look good because Yi Yan had hit the nail on the head. It was because the power was too great that he couldn't completely sing it. He could only sing a third of it, but it was also the strongest attack. However, Yi Yan continued. Actually, I feel that the Divine Book's music will take longer to sing towards the end. In a real battle, the enemy won't give you time to sing. They would have already slashed over. The Divine Book was very strong, but the Divine Book's music was a bit useless. It could only be used for teamwork, and was rarely used in individual battles. Even if Lin Cheng was right, Yi Yan, this daring guy, would give him time to sing it and then regret it. Therefore, the real value lies in not singing it. Yi Yan said with a faint smile. Then he snapped his fingers and lightly said, Divine Book of Music, Chapter 89, Space Split. Yi Yan's body was instantly wrapped in a rectangular shape. It looked like a mirror. It wasn't very gorgeous, but its defense was very abnormal. That was not the point. After Yi Yan used the non-singing version of the Divine Book's music, the whole place became really quiet. As his opponent, Lin Cheng's eyeballs almost popped out. Everyone from the Divine Book was stunned. Of course, that was except for Yi Lu. For her brother, not singing it was all done in his 3rd year in the academy. It was just that no one knew about it. And she actually used 3.5 years. What's more, her brother's talent was indeed better than hers. Chapter 1296. Everyone in the audience. He had thought that Lin City would be a dark horse by hiding his strength. But the situation had changed. The death song Lin Cheng used was extremely powerful, unprecedented in deity institution as well. However, the unsung music of the Holy Book. This was unprecedented. But Yi Yan did it. Yi Yan. Worthy of being deity institution's trump card. You've shown us what a true genius is. The referee's impassioned words made the atmosphere even more fiery. The audience cheered, but in Lin Cheng's ears, these cheers sounded like mocking laughter. Yi Hua looked at his son. Receiving such cheers from his son is indeed a great honor. Not only Yi Hua. Even Qingye felt that there was light on her face. The pride of a son is the pride of a parent. This kind of feeling is truly not bad. This fellow has grown quite a bit. Dong Huangli looked at her brother Yi Yan and said lightly. God Yi nodded in agreement. The Divine Book music of the Divine Academy is not an ordinary dharma. It's not bad that it doesn't need to be sung. You make it sound like you're very powerful. Lu Xian, couldn't help but ridicule. God Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and said calmly, Xianer, you're going to be my wife from now on. Watch your words. I don't want this to happen a 3rd time. It seemed that God Yi had indeed inherited Yi Hua's domineering nature. Back then, Yi Hua had also treated Qingye and Donghuang Baiji like this. It was just that later on, the situation became a bit better. Lu Xiener was very unhappy. She had never seen such a shameless man. Who wants to be your wife? You must be really arrogant. At this moment, Lin Cheng was panting heavily, his eyes filled with rage. This Yi Yan. He didn't even need to chant. Just this alone made him much stronger than him. Don't look down on me. Don't forget. Space Split is only chapter 89. You can't block my death song. Lin Cheng roared angrily at the sky. The veins on his temples looked as if they were about to burst. Those who did not know better would think that they had some kind of blood feud to make such a big fuss. The golden radiance around Yi Yan moved out with destruction. Immediately, the radiance was so bright that people couldn't help but raise their hands to block it. Bang 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 bang. All of the golden radiance exploded. Yi Yan's surroundings were filled with smoke and mist. Everyone didn't know what was happening and could only stare at Yi Yan closely. That power just now was extraordinary. Could Yi Yan resist it? However, Yi Yan didn't use any other defenses just now. Did he give up? Yi Hua, Qingya, and the others expressed that they were very calm. How can our son be defeated so easily? Even if he stood still, he could still use his physical body to defend. As for why he used a defensive move, Yi Hua thought to himself, my son knows how to act cool now. He really didn't let go of any opportunity. He had the demeanor of his father in the past. As the smoke dispersed, a black figure gradually appeared in front of everyone. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was actually all right. Although the explosion just now was not very big, its power was not to be underestimated. It was really blocked. When the smoke completely dissipated, the golden radiance was like the tip of a blade, piercing into Yi Yan's side. However, it was unable to move at all. How is this possible? Lin Cheng's face tightened in disbelief. Yi Yan imitated Lin Cheng's expression and exclaimed, how is this possible? You. It was impossible for broken space strike to block it. Impossible. Lin Cheng appeared to be a bit malevolent. The roar that he let out made everyone feel that he didn't dare to believe what was happening in front of him. Then let me explain to you why my broken space strike was able to block it. Yi Yan snapped his fingers and broken space strike shattered like glass. Of course, the ode of death that was pierced into the broken space strike was still there. However, this thing shouldn't be called ode of death. It should be called ode of death. Towards Yi Yan's action of snapping his fingers, everyone felt that it was very cool and could be imitated. However, Qingya knew that Yan was imitating Yi Hua, teaching his son these flashy actions. Yi Hua looked at Qingya's expression and said faintly, what's wrong? In the past, didn't you say that this action of mine was very cool? But now I don't think so anymore. Hee women. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Sure enough, before and after marriage, they are two different people. Scumbag after getting my body, this is her attitude. In the past, she would act coquettishly in all sorts of ways. Look at what she has become now, contradicting me in all sorts of ways. Explain? I don't need your explanation. Hearing what Yi Hua said, Lin Cheng became even angrier. That arrogant look on your face. Who do you think you are? Are you the son of the King of Heaven? Lin Cheng seems to be the right person this time. The broken space strike in your eyes is only the broken space strike in your eyes. That depends on who is using it, am I right? Yi Yan opened up his folding fan and lightly waved it. His acting cool index had reached 10 stars. Furthermore, the title of Act Tough King Yi was about to be transferred to Yi Yan. The entire audience went into an uproar. This Yi Yan is not bad, no matter if it is in terms of strength or in terms of mouth. He is using strength to attack Lin Cheng. In any case, we are all from the same place. This is really a case of killing each other. Yi Yan is really not letting go of any opportunity. After hearing what Yi Yan said, Lin Cheng's face became distorted and sinister as he pointed at Yi Yan and said, you are saying that I am weaker than you? Your tone is filled with doubt. In actuality, everyone has already seen it. You are indeed weaker than me. Seeing that we are from the same sect, you should just admit defeat and get down from the stage. Yi Yan said faintly. In actuality, he didn't really want to hurt Lin Cheng. After all, this fellow only wanted to win against me. All these years, Lin Cheng had been diligently training and didn't play any tricks. A person who only wanted to win against me in battle, this kind of person can still be counted as a man. You want me to admit defeat? The muscles on Lin Cheng's face began to tremble, and his entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. However, the aura that Lin Cheng was emitting started to rise again. This caused Yi Yan to be a bit surprised. If not for my existence, this Lin Cheng would be the brightest star in the world. What a pity after I appeared. This star dimmed down perhaps, this is fate. Lin Cheng, there is no benefit in winning against me. Even if there isn't, I also want to win against you. As long as I can win against you, I am willing to do anything. Lin Cheng roared furiously. Do Qi surged out from all of his body and formed a light pillar that charged into the clouds. The black clouds seemed to have been pierced through, and a heavenly eye appeared. The entire audience cried out in surprise. What is this situation? Could it be that this Lin Cheng still has a big move? Yi Yan slightly wrinkled his brows as he kept the folding fan in his hand and shouted out gravely, Lin Cheng, are you crazy? Ha ha ha. I am crazy. I am not crazy. I want to win against you. I want to be number one. Lin Cheng shouted out loudly. His strength actually rose from Do Zong to Do Di. Chapter 1297. Right at this moment, Yi Hua said faintly, This Lin Cheng is a good seedling. After hearing that, Qing Yutong asked curiously, Brother-in-law, do you have any thoughts? It's nothing, I'm just saying that. Although this person is a good sapling, his desire to win is too strong, to the extent that he didn't even hesitate to use all of his Do Qi. I'm afraid that in the future. Yi Hua was a little regretful. After all, this method of doing things was completely meaningless. And this child called Lin Cheng had already been blinded by his own desire to win. Qian Yuqing sighed. Youngsters nowadays were always like this. Yeah, youngsters are too impatient. That was what Yi Hua and Qian Yuqing were thinking. However, the majority of the people that were present felt that this was what a real battle was. And this was what made everyone's blood boil. Let's not waste any more words. We'll just do it. Lin Cheng, although I don't really like you, your actions will only make me look down on you even more. Yi Yan said solemnly. He was clearly out of energy, but he still acted like he wanted to die with me. I was really annoyed. Lin Cheng's eyes were already bloodshot. He couldn't control his powerful battle energy right now. His entire body felt like it was about to explode. Look down on me? Yi Yan, I look down on you. You're always sloppy and ignorant. Why does everyone fancy you and not me? How is my forest city inferior to you? When you were kissing the girl, I was working hard on my cultivation. When you broke up with the girl, I was also working hard on my cultivation. I didn't dare to slack off. My strength is the result of my hard work. As for you, Yi Yan, what have you worked so hard for? When everyone heard this, they fell silent. This might sound unfair, but it was an unfair thing. No matter how hard you worked, you couldn't compare to someone who was born invincible. Yi Yan looked at Lin Cheng. He didn't expect Lin Cheng to have such an idea. How can you understand my hard work? Yi Yan clenched his fists and shouted, as if he was going to reveal the inside story that no one knew about. Yi Hua and Qingye looked at their son, and were very curious about what their son was going to say. All of the subordinates felt that little sovereign must have suffered a lot these few years. And it was the kind of suffering that they themselves would not be able to experience. The children were so pitiful. Seeing Yi Yan's reaction, Lin Cheng was stunned. Looking at Yi Yan's serious expression, could it be that he had guessed wrong? Could it be that he was also training hard? Yi Yan shouted coldly. How do you know the pain I'm suffering? You guys always say that I, Yi Yan, don't need to cultivate to be so powerful. But do you know the determination behind it? Everyone swallowed their saliva. Sure enough, every genius was built with sweat. Forest City. Have you experienced the feeling of insomnia at night? Lin Cheng. I often suffer from insomnia at night, which leads to a loss of appetite. I can't even eat well. Can you understand this hardship? Look, I'm losing my hair. If this continues, I'm going to go bald. The audience instantly quietened down. Yi Hua looked at his son and thought that his son was going to talk about some great principle, but in the end, your son came here to make a joke. Not to mention, your mother was successfully amused by you. Qingye was indeed covering her mouth and laughing lightly. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too many people present, Qingye would have patted her stomach and laughed out loud. This Yen is a bit amusing. Dong Huangli smiled as well. This Yen, just a moment ago, I thought that you were sympathizing with your opponent, and were preparing to enlighten your opponent. So, it turns out that you are the one who is in the wrong. I knew it. How can such a good person appear in our Yi family? Such a person doesn't exist. This Yi Yan is too bad, to actually say such a thing. Lu Xian, who didn't know the truth, said coldly. God Ye's brows tightened. Xian, since you entered Yi family, then Yi Yan is your big brother. Do you understand? Ah. Lu Xian, cried out in surprise. Her brain was a bit unable to process what was going on. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, shook her head. For God Yi to tell such a thing to Lu Xian. Then Lu Xian, would either become his sister-in-law, or Lin Qing knew that he was being toyed with again, and his chest heaved up and down. Pooh! A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Lin Cheng's mouth. Yan! 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 Lin Qing shouted out 3 times, then spread out both of his arms. Yi Yan held onto his forehead, feeling helpless. Red starlight, grandeur of fire, burn this. Pa! The audience became silent. Yi Yan raised his right hand and muttered, "It's not like there's any deep hatred. Is there a need to commit suicide? You're crazy." Following Yi Yan's stance, no one was able to react to what happened just now. What happened just now was too fast. No one was able to see it clearly. Everyone, I know what you guys are thinking. I didn't see it clearly myself just now, but I can deduce that before Lin Cheng could even start singing, he was already sent flying away. Although he was sent flying away, Yi Yan still indirectly saved Lin Cheng's life. This kind of moral character is worthy of praise. Let us give Yi Yan a round of applause. The audience immediately applauded. Hearing the applause, Yi Yan pouted his mouth. "Brother, actually, you might as well just kill him," Yi Lu said lightly. Yi Yan rubbed onto his little sister's head and said with a slight smile, "If I kill him now, what will I do in the future?" Yi Lu went into a slight daze, then, as if she understood what her brother meant, she laughed lightly. As expected, like father, like child. At such a young age, Yi Yan has already started to groom his opponent. At this moment, Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, "Yan'er, this child's heart is still good." "That's right, fortunately he didn't become like that, he. This sentence was very obviously directed at Yi Hua. Yi Hua didn't pay attention to Yi Hua, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. How could these women possibly understand Yi Yan's intentions? This child is not bad, I like him. Not only did Yi Hua understand, every single one of the 7 great sins understood that little sovereign was intentionally not killing Lin Cheng because he wanted to attract hatred. If that were to happen, Lin Cheng would definitely be affected and become Yi Yan's strong enemy in the future. Indeed, when Lin Cheng, who was lying in the pit, heard the cheers coming from outside, his eyes became lifeless. However, his hands were still tightly clenched. Unwillingness, anger, hatred, all of the negative emotions were lingering in Lin Cheng's mind. If Lin Cheng doesn't have the right person to guide him, he will definitely walk towards darkness in the future. However, all of this was within Yi Yan's plan. "I, Yi Yan, am a man of Yi family. How can I be someone that you can kill whenever you want to? Not killing you today is already the greatest kindness that I have shown you. Don't let this kindness become worthless. Properly enjoy your life. Don't make any more pointless struggles. Perhaps, the next time we meet, it might really be the day that you die." "Aya, it's my turn to go on stage." Dong Huangli raised both of her hands and did a set of broadcast calisthenics. Dong Huangli was a bit nervous in her heart. After all, her father and mother are watching her. I have to perform well. Chapter 1298. Ali is going to appear. Dong Huang Baiji said happily, "It has been a long time since I last looked after my daughter. Right now my daughter is a slim and elegant lady." Qing Yutong teased, "Do you guys think that Ali has a boyfriend?" "I don't think so," Qing Ye said lightly. Yi Hua pursed his lips. "My daughter's personal problem is also a headache for me. I wonder if there is a man who is worthy of Ali and Lu. It is still fine if it is a boy, but it is more troublesome for a daughter. After all, she is going to marry out. Just thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable." On the stage, Dong Huangli's beautiful figure had already walked out. Of course, Mu Gao's disciple was also there. Mu Gao was 3 years older than Dong Huangli. When he first met Dong Huangli, he fell in love with her. Speaking of Mu Gao, he doesn't look very handsome, he is considered normal. But he gives off a very honest feeling. He isn't very strong, he only has the strength of a king realm fighter. Compared to a genius, he is very far behind. Mu Gao looked at Dong Huangli and felt that, if I don't say it out today, I might see it in the future. Just now, God Ye's confession succeeded, I should try it out too. In actuality, after so many years, Dong Huangli and Mu Gao's relationship was that of ordinary friends. When they met, they would chat a bit. but they weren't close friends. The main reason was that Mu Gao didn't dare to chat, and Dong Huangli wasn't interested either. Everyone. This is the internal battle of Broken Line Sect. Dong Huangli. She is the trump card of Broken Line Sect, and Mu Gao is also a rising star of Broken Line Sect. Let us wait and see. This will be a hot-blooded battle, or a one-sided battle. Along with the host's words, everyone in the audience laughed. He really doesn't give any face at all. Qian Yuqing said curiously, "Why do I feel that this boy seems to be interested in Ali?" Along with what Qian Yuqing said, Dong Huang Baiji also watched seriously. That seems to be the case. Qing Ye muttered. Qing Yutong pursed her lips. This boy called Mu Gao looks honest. I reckon that he isn't Ali's type. Yihua didn't say anything. In his heart, he felt that this kind of boy wasn't worthy of his daughter. In terms of imposing manner, the difference between the two of them was too big. Looking at that expression, it seems like he wants to say something, but doesn't dare to say anything. If a man did not have courage, then he would have nothing to speak of. Senior brother Mu, you must be careful. Dong Huangli said with a joking tone. Towards Mu Gao. Dong Huangli doesn't have any enmity towards Mu Gao. It's fine for me to just casually beat Mu Gao up. Besides, my parents are still watching. Mu Gao swallowed his saliva. He was so nervous that his palms were sweating, and he couldn't say a word. Dong Huangli was confused for a moment, then took the initiative to attack. Dong Huangli punched out. Ladies and gentlemen, Dong Huangli moved. This speed. As expected of the Meridian Break Sex trump card. Even I can't see through it. When Yihua heard this, he became unhappy. It is normal for you to not be able to see it, but if you are able to see it, then that is abnormal. Boom. A gust of strong wind was emitted, causing Mu Gao's hair and clothes to flutter wildly. What are you doing? Dong Huangli asked confusedly. Dong Huangli's fist was right in front of Mu Gao. Mu Gao didn't have the heart to fight at all. Dong Huangli leaped backwards and slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. Father and mother are still watching. What are you trying to do? Although Dong Huangli was teaching her little brother how to pick up girls, when this kind of thing happened to her, she wouldn't understand. This Mu Gao seems to like my sister. Seeing this, God Yi said faintly. Lu Xian'er bit onto her lower lip, then said softly, "This is the type that I like." This sentence immediately caused God Yi to be unhappy. Then you have to change. God Yi said coldly. To actually say such a thing in front of me, if it was my father, what should I do? I just don't like you. After hearing what God Yi said, God Yi didn't say anything and continued looking at the stage. Lu Xian'er took a look at God Yi with her peripheral vision. This God Yi actually didn't refute. Ladies and gentlemen, this battle seems to have changed a bit. Just what is going on today? Could it be that the two trump cards of Meridian Break Sect are both going to welcome their own love? This is truly interesting. Following the host's shout, the audience immediately started whistling. If you're a real man, then go. Confess. Mu Gao, you can do it. Don't be afraid. Confess. Confess. Get the beauty back. Yihua's expression darkened. Even Dong Huang Baiji's expression became unstable. The subordinates were also a bit unstable. The one who had been in contact with them the longest was Ali. Ali's future husband has to pass through a lot of tests, therefore if one wanted to marry Ali's man, one would have to go through a lot of difficulties. An ordinary person would not be able to do that. Right now, Dong Huangli was also not able to remain calm, and her beautiful face became sunken. Don't speak. Dong Huangli said gravely. Following Dong Huangli's voice, the cheers of the audience quietened down. Mu Gao was taken aback and didn't dare to speak anymore. Dong Huangli said gravely, Mu Gao, this is already very good, you know that. When Mu Gao heard what Dong Huangli said, his heart immediately became disappointed. You're a good person, I can't hold you back. The audience sighed. Although they wanted to see a different ending, this was considered a more normal ending. If Dong Huangli agreed to it, then that would be called a reversal of the situation. Right now, Mu Gao was just like a protagonist who was rejected during a martial arts competition, then worked hard to become stronger, and in the end, took revenge. This was a normal ending. I understand. Mu Gao said with a heartache. Originally, I was still thinking that I have the same luck as God Yi. Unfortunately, I am still too weak. If I am a bit stronger, perhaps Dong Huangli will like me. It is very normal for women to like strong men. Don't complain that a woman doesn't like you. It's just that you aren't strong enough. But when you become strong, you will discover that the woman who didn't like you back then still doesn't like you. Dong Huangli let out a breath. Fortunately, I managed to control the situation. Father won't go as far as to kill me, right? However, if Mu Gao is a bit more stubborn, then things might be different. I admit defeat. Mu Gao said lightly. He chose to admit defeat and directly returned to Meridian Break Sex Camp. This was a relationship that ended before Dong Huangli even confessed. To Dong Huangli, this was nothing. However, to Mu Gao, this was 12 years of love. And at this moment, it seemed like everything was gone. Big sister, you are crueler than me. Seeing that big sister had returned, God Yi said lightly. Chapter 1299. When it comes to feelings, there is nothing cruel about it. Dong Huangli said faintly. If you don't like me, then you don't like me. Don't tell me that you want me to force you to like me. God Yi nodded. A forced melon won't be sweet. Lu Xian's heart skipped a beat when she heard this, but she didn't say anything. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. That child Ali has truly matured a lot. He no longer causes trouble like before. When a girl is outside, it is better for her to properly protect herself. Qingye said faintly. Yihua wasn't worried at all. As for his two sons, when boys are outside they have to properly protect themselves. The competition was still going on. Right now, Yihua was just waiting to watch the fight between the children. He was not interested in anything else. On the other hand, the surrounding people were very interested, and were making a big fuss. Yihua leaned onto Qingye's fragrant shoulder and fell asleep. This is truly boring to the extreme. The following battle was what everyone was looking forward to. It was the battle between the trump cards of both sides. God Yi versus Yi Lu. Dong Huangli versus Yi Yan. This caused Yi Hua, who was asleep, to wake up, and he immediately took out a stick of cigarette to wake himself up. Only then would it be worth watching. Soon the contestants from both sides were about to go on stage. Right at this moment, Dong Huangli said towards her younger brother, "Good luck. Don't go easy on me." Got it, sis. After all, he had grown up and God Yi would not act the way he did when he was young. God Yi turned to look at Lu Xian and said softly, "Shouldn't you say something to me?" Lu Xian bit her lips and did not speak. God Yi turned and flew into the void. Dong Huangli let out a light sigh. Xian, other than the flaws in his personality, this little brother of mine is actually quite a good person. If you miss out on this opportunity, you won't be able to meet him again in the future. In actuality, Dong Huangli felt that Lu Xian liked Lu Xian a little bit. However, since Lu Xian was a girl, it seemed like Lu Xian was a little bit unable to put down her pride, or perhaps it was due to some other reason. However, Dong Huangli was sure that if Lu Xian still had such an attitude towards Dong Huangli, her brother would rather be taught a lesson by her father than to marry such a woman. If he did, he would really get himself killed. Hearing Dong Huangli's words, Lu Xian remained silent and did not say anything. In actuality, Dong Huangli rarely spoke up for God Yi. It wasn't that her big sister didn't want to help God Yi, but rather, if she didn't help God Yi well, it would not be good for them in the future. On the other side, Yi Yan was also talking to his sister. Lu, don't go easy this time. Do your best. Yi Yan hugged Yi Lu lightly and encouraged her. Yi Lu hugged her brother too. She nodded and then pushed him away. Brother, save your hug for other girls. Lu, what are you saying? Brother's embrace will always be the safest place for you. When you're sad, come and find me. Yi Yan smiled as he leaned against her chest. Yi Lu let out a low laugh, like 100 flowers blooming, extremely beautiful. Be serious. Let God Yi take a look. Yes, I will win. After saying that, Yi Lu flew up into the void. After 12 years, the brother and sister stared at each other again. At that moment, God Yi only had the desire to fight and nothing else in his mind. It was the same for Yi Lu now. From the first day she was admitted to the hospital, she knew that she would have to fight with her brother in the future. Today, her wish was finally fulfilled. Yi Hua looked at his son and daughter, and a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. Qingya immediately teased him. You are actually still able to laugh when you see your own son and daughter fighting each other. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes. Between God Yi and Yi Lu, who do you guys think is stronger? Yi Hua asked curiously. Of course, Yi Hua wasn't asking Qingya and the others, he was asking the subordinates behind them. This question was rather difficult. Both of them are little sovereigns. It doesn't seem right to say who is stronger, right? Your Honor, Dou Fusher raised his hand. Lai Gu hurriedly said. Dou Fusher, who was sitting in the group, stiffened. How many years has it been? Why am I the one who gets injured every single time? I, Dou Fusher, am also a respectable person, alright? Oh. Dou Fusher, tell us. Yi Hua said faintly. In his heart, he knew that these people were tricking Dou Fusher, and this kind of habit had been going on for many years. This also resulted in Dou Fusher being the first person to answer every question. Dou Fusher rubbed his forehead and asked left and right for help. However, all of his subordinates immediately turned their heads and pretended not to see anything. In any case, this wasn't the first time. Your Honor, in subordinates' humble opinion, both little sovereigns should be very powerful. What else could Dou Fusher say? Even his Honor's questions are so thorny. Of course. Do I need you to say that? Yi Hua said faintly. Dou Fusher immediately shut his mouth. Yi Hua looked at the children in the sky and sighed in his heart. Back then, when I sent them out, they were only as tall as my knees. Right now, God Yi is about the same height as me. Everyone. The battle that everyone has been looking forward to is about to begin. God Yi against Yi Lu. Both of them have the same surname Yi, just who is more powerful. Let us wait and see. God Yi looked at Yi Lu, and Yi Lu did the same as well. The two of them were actually sighing in their hearts. Back then, when we separated, we were still so young, and now, we have already become adults. Lu'er is truly becoming more and more beautiful. Yi Lu was also thinking in her heart. Big brother is becoming more and more handsome. He is even taller than me. I remember that when I was young, I was still taller than him. If it was possible, the brother and sister would like to hug each other before fighting. However, the brother and sister knew that they cannot fight with their full strength. After all, if they were to do that, it would be rather shocking. God Yi took the initiative to release his aura. He wanted to see what his little sister had learned after so many years. A majestic aura instantly spread out. Yi Lu was not to be outdone. Her aura spread out, and the two powerful Duki immediately clashed. At that moment, the MC was extremely excited. So strong. So strong. Are these the trump cards of both sides? In that case, the competition just now is just a child's play. This is a real battle. The Duki emitted by the two clashed fiercely, emitting a dazzling light. The brother and sister were the kind of people who did not speak much. The opening was a battle of Duki. Not bad. God Yi said calmly. Yi Lu said coldly, you two. Then let me see how strong you are. God Yi stretched out his palm, and a long sword appeared in his hand. It was a rather ordinary one. However, Yi Lu did not use a longsword. That was because the two of them did not plan to use any other moves. They were both prepared to use what they had learned over the years to fight. Divine Book 3, Scarlet Lightning. Yi Lu's slender index finger suddenly shot out a red electric current, crackling throughout the entire place. God Yi said calmly, if that's all, then I'll be disappointed. God Yi stretched out his left hand. Without even using a sword, he directly grabbed the electric current and squeezed it hard. It disappeared. The audience was silent. He used his hand to settle it. This God Yi was too strong. Chapter 1300. Yi Yan looked at God Ye's move, and the corner of his mouth curled up. This God Yi is showing off now. He actually grabbed it with his bare hands. Doesn't it hurt? At that moment, Lu Xian was looking at God Yi with a complicated look in her eyes. Dong Huang Li's words just now could be considered as a warning. He didn't know why, but he felt inexplicably nervous in his heart. He didn't even know why he was so nervous, or perhaps he was afraid. Shen that child, he doesn't use his weapon and insists on using his bare hands to receive the attack. Dong Huang Baiji said in displeasure. Qingye chuckled. Don't you know whose son God Yi is? Yi Hua snorted coldly. What? I feel that this move of Shen Er's is pretty good, isn't it? All of Dong Huang Baiji's subordinates didn't dare to say anything else. They were all praising God Yi's awesomeness, causing Dong Huang Baiji to roll her eyes. In the field, this was the second time the two children had a direct confrontation. Their hearts were filled with excitement and excitement. If they could, they really wanted to go all out and fight. Only then would they be able to determine the winner. Broken sword style. God Yi shouted coldly and took the initiative to attack. No matter what, he had to let his sister see what he had learned all these years. The broken sword style was a set of sword techniques, and it was also one of the advanced sword techniques of the Meridian Breaking sect. For the Meridian Breaking sect to have such a prestigious reputation, the broken sword style could not go unnoticed. However, what God Yi used was not the original version of the broken sword form. He also added his own ideas to make the broken sword form even more perfect. Yi Lu's eyebrows furrowed. She had also discovered the problem. Of course, Yi Lu had done some research on the broken pulse sex sword techniques, so she knew a thing or two about it. The broken sword form had a total of 3 forms. Each form had its own uniqueness, but the third form was the most powerful. But now, it seemed that her brother had made some changes, and this change was in his footwork. Lu don't get distracted during the battle. God Yi's figure suddenly appeared behind Yi Lu, and reminded her softly. Yi Lu's eyes widened in shock. Divine Book Music, Chapter 10 Void Piercing. God Yi directly slashed down. Boom. A huge shockwave appeared at the scene, and the two of them instantly separated. The audience was silent. This was a duel between experts. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if everyone has noticed, but God Yi's broken sword form is different. His speed became even faster. Never seen before. Could it be that God Yi had secretly modified the broken sword form? This was incredible. As expected of a genius-level figure. It seems like Yi Lu of the deity institution is in danger. Qingye was shocked just now because God Yi seemed to have really slashed her just now. What if Lu was injured? This god. What are you doing? Little sister, you are all so serious. Dong Huang Baiji was very angry. If Lu is injured, how am I going to explain to Qingye? However, in the eyes of the subordinates, this situation was nothing. It was a battle, so they should go all out. Otherwise, what was the point of fighting? However, from the looks of things, God Yi seemed to have the upper hand. After all, Meridian Break sect was considered a melee fighter, while Divine Academy was considered half a long-range fighter. If they were to compete with what they had learned, God Yi had a slight advantage. Yi Hua was naturally able to see that Shen had actually gone easy on Lu, just now. If not, Lu might have already been injured by now. However, towards his son's achievements during these few years, Yi Hua felt very gratified. As for his son getting injured during the battle, that was something that was unavoidable. Of course, Yi Hua hoped that Yi Hua and his son would be able to go all out during the battle, and not have any misgivings. As long as the injuries were not fatal, it would be fine. After all, it was only a spar. At that moment, Yi Yan became slightly serious. My little brother didn't just play around all these years. As expected, his strength is very strong, no different from when he was young. I wonder how my big sister's strength is now. She might even be a bit stronger than my little brother. Dong Huangli placed both of her hands behind her waist and slightly raised her head to look at the sky. Dong Huangli's expression was very calm. This battle is still worth watching. My parents will probably not be disappointed. Xian, do you wish for God Yi to win? Dong Huangli suddenly asked. Lu Xian came back to her senses and pursed her lips. Xian, if you say it out, your heart will feel better. If you keep it in your heart and don't say it out, it will actually be very uncomfortable, right? If you like him, then you like him. There's nothing to be shy about. If you still care about other people's opinions, I will talk to God Yi later on, and tell him to stop pestering you. Dong Huangli wasn't joking. For her little brother to do this today, he had already lowered himself. If Lu Xian still doesn't care about it, then there is no need for him to continue. Although we are good friends, I don't wish to have such a sister-in-law. Lu Xian felt both shy and panicked. I was originally rejecting him nicely, and now that I suddenly agreed to it, isn't this a bit losing face? Who said that a girl shouldn't care about face? When the time comes, other people might even say that I was attracted by God Ye's beauty. No. Lu Xian said subconsciously. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. That's enough, from now on we are a family. When God Yi wins later on, go over and give him a hug. Hug? Lu Xian felt that she wouldn't be able to do such a wild thing. Looking at the black mass of people in front of her, it is truly difficult for her to do such a thing. What are you being shy about? Sometimes a girl has to take the initiative as well. Taking the initiative is the story. If you don't take the initiative, the story won't happen automatically. Dong Huangli said with a smile. I'll give it a try. Lu Xian said with a red face. I was actually moved by Ali's words. I must have gone crazy. After hearing what Dong Huangli said, she didn't say anything. She looked at her little brother who was in the sky. This is all big sister can help you with. I know that you like him. But no matter how much you like him, on the stage, God Yi waved the longsword in his hand. That longsword could be considered as a relatively ordinary artifact. However, no matter how ordinary it was, in front of everyone, it was still a priceless treasure. Are you still not going to show me some of your abilities? The Divine Book's music is indeed powerful, but Shen Academy doesn't have just this, right? God Yi pointed at Yi Lu and said faintly. Yi Lu had been careless just now. After all, God Ye's move was unexpected. Since you want to see it, I'll fulfill your wish. Yi Lu said coldly. At this moment, the two icicles started to become serious. Suddenly, a thick wave of battle energy gathered towards Yi Lu. Everyone could sense this terrifying pressure. In fact, many people were unable to endure this wave of battle energy, causing the two supremes of the organizing committee to appear and set up an invisible barrier. Right now, the host was no longer calm. With a hoarse voice he shouted. Everyone. All kinds of audience. Could this be Shen Academy's Breaking Dawn? How is this possible? Only Do Zun can use Breaking Dawn. No. One should only be able to comprehend it after reaching Do Zun. And Yi Lu actually managed to use it. It can't be Shen Academy's trump card. The surprise that Yi Lu gave us is too much. Previously, I thought that God Yi was slightly stronger, but my thinking was wrong. Right now the situation is 50-50. Of course, if God Yi doesn't bring out the corresponding ultimate move, the situation might not be 50-50. Chapter 1301. Not bad. The children seem to have worked hard all these years. Yi Hua had no choice but to admit that these little fellows had already matured, and in the future, they would be able to become the pillar of Yi family. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't think so. After all, the two of them were their children. How could they play around like this? Looking at the two of them now, it seemed like they had a deep hatred for each other, wishing for nothing more than to spill blood on the spot. I have to stop the two of them. They're being ridiculous. Donghuang Baiji couldn't bear it anymore. Swords have no eyes. What if I get injured somewhere? As a mother, I will die from heartache. You're the one messing around. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. The children wanted to have such a duel, but not only did you not support it, you even rushed over to cause trouble. You are truly becoming more and more unreasonable. Donghuang Baiji didn't pay any attention to Donghuang Baiji, and just when Donghuang Baiji was about to rush out, Yi Hua immediately sealed the Empress. While I'm at it, I also imprisoned Qingye as well. These two women in recent years, they are really becoming more and more mischievous. I, the Supreme Overlord, must have indulged them too much and didn't discipline them properly, which is why such a situation has occurred. Yi Hua, what are you doing, still not letting go of me? Qingye immediately looked at Yi Hua coldly. Yi Hua ignored the two gazes of death, and his subordinates pretended not to see or hear anything. His honor seems to have lost his temper. Qin Yutong and Qian Yuqing didn't say anything. At this time, it would be best for us to not go and provoke Yi Hua. If not, when the time comes, even we would end up being imprisoned. For Yi Hua to be able to imprison the two ferocious wives, it could be seen that Yi Hua's strength was still that formidable. Yi Hua, release me, or we will divorce, the Empress said darkly. Yi Hua didn't even look at her and said faintly, I don't think we are married yet. Everyone. The subordinates' scalps went numb. Is this how his honor handles the relationship between husband and wife? Wasn't this a little too cruel? However, I have also learned it. When my woman flips out, I will also learn from his honor and act like an overbearing CEO. Are you afraid or not? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were immediately in a bad mood. It would have been fine if Qingye didn't mention marriage, but the moment Qingye mentioned marriage, they immediately became angry. How many years has it been? We haven't even had a single decent wedding. Previously, they had been talking about holding a wedding after the conquest of hegemony. Only then would it be more stylish. But all these years, you've been hammering iron and haven't done anything else. If you wait until your conquest is over, who knows when you'll be able to? Are you letting go or not? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji shouted out coldly at the same time. Yi Hua did not speak and looked at the children silently. Qingye immediately turned to Yi Lu and prepared to shout. Daughter, your father is abusing your mother. Yi Hua didn't know what Qingye wanted to do, and he immediately sealed Qingye's mouth, not even letting Donghuang Baiji off. Right now, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were unable to move at all, and they couldn't even speak at all. They could only use their gazes to tell Yi Hua that a quarrel was inevitable. Everyone's subordinates discovered that this doesn't seem to be a joke, they are really scolding each other. This is so scary domestic violence, it's a real fact. However, at that moment, God Yi and Yi Lu did not know that Yi Hua had offended the two tigresses for the sake of the two of them fighting in peace. They did not even know if they could be appeased. What? Will I coax them? Haha, that's not going to happen. This time, I won't coax them even if I'm beaten to death. I'll just let them do whatever they want. On the battlefield, a berserk aura swept across the battlefield continuously. Yi Lu's body was enveloped by a golden light, and only a beautiful figure could be seen. God Yi slightly wrinkled his brows. Is this Shin Academy's trump card, Daybreak? It is indeed formidable. In just an instant, my little sister's strength rose by a few levels. Boom! Suddenly, a golden lightning descended from the sky that was filled with dark clouds and struck onto Yi Lu's body. Everyone cried out in surprise, thinking that an accident had occurred. However, that wasn't the case. When the golden lightning struck onto Yi Lu's body, it did not cause any damage to Yi Lu. Instead, a golden lightning effect appeared around Yi Lu's body, and it looked very scary. Daybreak, as Shin Academy's trump card, was rarely seen in the world. Even the experienced and knowledgeable host was unable to say a thing or two about it. After quite a while, the golden light on Yi Lu's body dimmed by quite a bit, and only a thin layer of golden membrane was left behind. There was even a bit of golden electric current around the membrane. At that moment, Yi Hua felt that if his daughter's hair turned golden, she would look a bit like the manga that he read a long time ago, Super Saiyan. Not bad, this is more like it, God Yi said faintly. Yi Lu stared at God Yi, and with a clench of her hands, a double-edged spear appeared in her hands. Flame-breaking spear. Yi Lu said coldly. Come, God Yi shouted out, not daring to be careless. Then you better watch carefully. Yi Lu said faintly. This caused God Yi to be startled. However, in that instant, Yi Lu threw out the flame-breaking spear in her hands. The speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Yi Lu, who had activated Daybreak, no matter if it was her strength, speed, or reaction, all of them had improved. This kind of improvement was very terrifying. However, from the looks of it, Yi Lu was also a javelin expert. The flame-breaking spear whistled through the air and attacked towards God Yi. Even the heavens and the earth rumbled, and the friction between the spearhead and the air produced a huge pressure. If this attack were to hit, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji both closed their eyes. In their hearts, they were thinking that if anything were to happen to the children, they would definitely teach Yihua a lesson. Even Lu Xianer had covered her eyes, not daring to watch anymore. Godyi didn't expect that Yi Lu, who was in daybreak, would be so powerful, especially when it came to javelins. The flame-breaking spear brushed past Godye's ear, and a strand of hair floated in the air. However, the flame-breaking spear that did not hit its target flew far away. And then, boom! Everyone saw a huge explosion that happened far away. The entire ground was overturned, and not long later, a wave of air swept over. This kind of power, everyone could only express it with their frozen expressions. When Qingye and Donghuang Baiji saw that kind of damage, they really wanted to slap the two children's butts. What's wrong with you two? Why are you two fighting each other? On the other hand, Yihua was very satisfied. Brother, be more focused during the battle. Unknowingly, Yi Lu's delicate body appeared above Godye's head, and in her hands, another flame-breaking spear appeared. Everyone did not manage to see it clearly, but they were extremely shocked in their hearts. Could it be that this flame-breaking spear is limitless? Godye felt a terrifying aura coming from above his head. The long sword in his hand immediately rose up and shouted out coldly, "Broken sword style. Second style. Storm wave." The body of the sword could be seen immediately shining with a huge light, just like a silver moonlight. However, this silver light, why does it look like ice? Two majestic auras clashed fiercely against each other. The golden and silver light seemed as if they were going to tear the ground apart, making it hard for people to look straight at them. Chapter 1302. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji both closed their eyes. The way the children are fighting, they are simply too reckless. In the past, when I was still young, I didn't fight with all my might like this. Back then, when I was still at home, I would always stop when the time was right. But look at what is happening right now. It was as if they were enemies that they hadn't met for many years, and they wouldn't stop until they got rid of the other party. On the other hand, Yihua and his subordinates admired Yihua's actions very much. This is what a battle should be. And it isn't like when we were young, playing house. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. After all, such a battle wasn't something that could be easily seen. In particular, Yi Lu's breaking dawn was something that others might not be able to witness in their entire lives. The dazzling light gradually dissipated, and a figure suddenly descended. Boom! The maple forest valley below suddenly shook, and a crater was formed. Countless maple trees in the surroundings were broken, and the sight of it made one's heart ache. Yi Lu stood in the air and looked down. She was like a goddess, exuding an aura that no one dared to blaspheme. Since Yi Lu was still standing, the person who just landed must be Godyi. The Empress was completely flustered. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared fixedly at Yihua. As if anything were to happen to my son, I will fight it out with you. Once again, Yihua ignored the Empress's gaze. If Godyi were to lose so easily, then he wouldn't be Godyi. Lu Xianer now knew that the one who fell was Godyi. She was extremely worried, and her tightly clenched palms were full of sweat. Yihua took a look at Dong Huangli, who was beside him. Dong Huangli's expression was the same as before, and there wasn't a single bit of worry on her face. However, the situation that happened next caused everyone to be shocked. Even Yihua went into a daze for a moment. Donghuang Baiji was about to collapse, and Qingye wished that she could grab onto Yi Lu's butt and spank him, because Yi Lu raised the spear in her hand. This action of his, it was very obvious that he knew what she wanted to do. Bang! The fire-breaking spear left Yi Lu's hand and flew toward the landing point. The terrifying pressure swept across the scene again. All of the subordinates were a bit stupefied. Little Honor is acting like this. Isn't he afraid of being taught a lesson? Brother-in-law, let's just forget about it. Qin Yutong couldn't help but say. Yihua did not say anything and continued to watch the battle. Qin Yutong did not continue speaking. She knew that no matter what she said right now, it would be useless. Look at the Empress, she is already crying. My big sister is also about the same. Brother-in-law is really. Let's see how you are going to clean up the mess in the future. Everyone had seen the destructive power of the flame breaker spear. If it landed, the entire Maple Forest Valley would probably turn into ashes. Within everyone's eyes, the golden flame-breaking spear seemed to be very frightened. The third move of the broken sword style. Release. A figure came from below. Needless to say, it was definitely Godyi. Furthermore, what he used was the broken sword style's ultimate. Liberation. This was the meridian-breaking sect's specialty, and it was similar to Yi Lu's Breaking Dawn. They were both trump cards. The host lost his composure again and shouted, "It's actually the third move. It was the third style of the broken sword style. My God. Today, I actually got to see Meridian Break Sect and God Academy's ultimate technique. This is simply an eye-opener for me. Even if I were to go to the Western Paradise now, I would still be able to die without any regrets." Everyone had heard of the third style, but they had never heard of it. In any case, it was a very awesome style. Suddenly, a huge amount of doqi surged from below. This doqi appeared very calm and reserved, but it had a very strong offensive nature. Bang! The smoke produced by the collision was instantly blown away. Godyi's figure appeared. However, everyone had never seen Godyi in this state of mind before. The long sword in his hand had already disappeared, and a set of silver armor suddenly appeared on his body. He was fully armed, and even his hands and feet were wrapped in armor. Everyone stared at Godyi in a daze. So handsome, so handsome. Even Yehua felt that he was simply a super handsome man. As expected of the main body's son. Seeing that her son was fine, the Empress breathed a sigh of relief. On the other hand, when Qingye saw Godyi, she began to worry about her daughter again. It must have been hard on those two mothers. Heavenly Wolf Jade Emperor. Godyi stared at Yi Lu in the air and said calmly. Although Yi Lu was surprised, she quickly calmed down. The third move of the broken sword style. That was to release one's own weapon. That was the most powerful part of the broken sword style. Integrating the weapon into one's body would result in a qualitative change. Yi Lu had never seen it before. That was the first time. This meridian-breaking sect was indeed powerful. Godyi looked at the falling flame-breaking spear and raised his right hand. Everyone was shocked by that action. What was Godyi trying to do? Was he going to catch the blade with his bare hands again? That was right. His dragon claw-like palm grabbed the spearhead. Poof! A terrifying wave of air suddenly spread out, and the ground under Godyi's hands sank a little more. But he caught it. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Such a terrifying explosion just now, but now he could catch it with just his right hand. That was too ridiculous. However, what was even more ridiculous was that Godyi grabbed the spearhead tightly and tightened it. Gotcha! A crack could be seen with the naked eye. The crack instantly spread to the entire spear body, and then it shattered. Yi Lu frowned. Her brother could actually hold the flame-breaking spear. How was that possible? Just as Yi Lu was in a daze, Godyi disappeared. Yi Lu's eyes were filled with horror, and a sense of terror spread in her heart. Divine Book, Chapter 89, Skybreaker. Yi Lu shouted. Everyone was shocked once again. Yi Yan did not manage to chant it earlier, but Yi Lu could do it as well. He was indeed the trump card of the Divine Academy. Too powerful. Bang. However, under Godyi's feet, Skybreaker shattered with a kick. That kind of terrifying power shocked Yi Lu. This meridian-breaking sect's release was too powerful, especially when the user was her brother. Yi Lu formed another flame-breaking spear with both of her hands, and Godyi's feet landed on the spear body. Yi Lu retreated a few steps back. Fortunately, Skybreaker reduced some of the force. Looking at her brother who only had his eyes exposed, Yi Lu's breathing became a little rushed. Godyi's body disappeared again. His speed was too fast, and it was impossible to catch him. Yi Lu was indeed shocked, but she was still able to catch up to her brother's speed. The whole place was filled with banging sounds. A huge pressure hit on the barrier, making people worry if the barrier would be damaged. Yihua even strengthened the barrier himself to not disturb the children's mood. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji swore that they would never forgive Yihua this time. Looking at the two children bleeding, as mothers, their hearts ached to death. It was the first time they met for 12 years, and they saw the children killing each other. Is this Yihua's way of education? It's simply cruel. However, the audience was indeed satisfied. It was a battle that was rarely seen in 100 years. Such young children. They were already so powerful. Chapter 1303. Yi Yan became a little serious at that moment. His brother and sister were both suppressing their strength and using the knowledge they had learned over the years. It could be said that they had a 50-50 chance of winning. However, it seemed that God Yi had the upper hand. That also showed that Meridian Break sect was indeed stronger than Shin Academy. After all, Meridian Break sect belonged to the melee category. Shin Academy's melee combat was not mainstream, and neither was Taoism. It was more balanced and did not stand out. He had previously discussed with his sister about their fighting style. It was indeed difficult to win against God Yi, unless they did not use anything from Shin Academy, and went all out to fight God Yi. Breaking Dawn was considered the top martial arts technique of Shin Academy, but unexpectedly, it was still weaker than Broken Sword style. Therefore, Yi Yan and Yi Lu concluded that they had to fight with their brains and not rely on fighting head-on. That way, they would definitely have no chance of winning. The key to victory was still the Divine Book movement. However, Yi Lu raised her own opinion. No matter how much they suppressed their strength, the toughness of their bodies was there. The Divine Book movement could not defeat her brother. Yi Yan knocked his sister's head, indicating that they did not want to beat the opponent until he could not stand up, but to let God Yi know that the brain was good and defeat the opponent with strategy. Didn't Dad always say to use your brain? We should follow suit. At that moment, Yi Lu remembered the conversation with her brother and immediately distanced herself from him. A few wounds had already appeared on her body. God Yi's armor also had cracks. That was simply cheating. Look at your sister. She did not even wear armor. As the brother, she still wore armor. How could she be a brother? She deserved a beating. What? Are you admitting defeat? God Yi asked calmly. Although he said that, he knew in his heart that his sister was not the kind of person who would admit defeat. She probably wanted to use other methods to defeat him. After all, he could see his own shortcomings. It was impossible to defeat him by attacking. His sister would definitely start with the Divine Book movement. Last night, he discussed with his sister about the fighting style. In terms of offense, Meridian Break sect was stronger than Shin Academy. That was why his sister used Breaking Dawn to fight him head-on. She realized that she did not gain anything and could only stop now. She must be using the Divine Book movement now, and it was different from before. Big Sister's words were still lingering in Luer's mind. If Luer wants to win against you, she will definitely have to use her brain. There are a lot of traps in the Holy Book's music, and if all of them are combined together, it would be very powerful. Therefore, if he wanted to defeat Yi Lu, he had to end the battle as soon as possible. You are very strong, Yi Lu said indifferently. Thank you. But you're definitely going to lose today, Yi Lu declared. She was going to beat her brother today. God Yi was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, Lose? I hope you can accept this ending. Then you'll have to bring out even more strength, Yi Lu said coldly. Both of his hands immediately emitted out a green-colored glazed light, and he slowly shouted out, Divine Book of Music, Chapter 41 Ning. However, before Yi Lu could finish, God Yi shouted coldly, Kill. The whole world seemed to have quietened down, as if time had stopped. No one could say a word. The situation in front of them was completely incomprehensible. Sister, you've lost. God Yi appeared behind Yi Lu and whispered in her ear. 5 dragon claw-like fingers were pressed against Yi Lu's jade neck. All it would take was a light stroke to destroy her. Yi Lu breathed a sigh of relief, then said indifferently, I've lost. At that moment, Yi Lu had to admit that she did not see her brother's movements clearly. Even though they were in the same realm, her brother was still stronger than her. It seemed that she had not trained hard enough for so many years. She had to continue working hard in the future. God Yi chuckled. Lu, I'm very happy to see you. You're getting more and more beautiful. I'm not going easy anymore. Yi Lu snorted softly, hammered her brother, then landed. God Yi laughed in his heart. Oh Lu, you only realized now. In the past, I always went easy on you. If I didn't, How could you be my opponent? However, if it was her brother, God Yi looked at Yi Yan, and Yi Yan looked back at God Yi. Their gazes met, and the friction seemed to ignite the desire for battle. So surprising. So exciting. This battle is enough for me to brag about for the rest of my life. Yi Lu's strength showed us the strength of Shenshin Academy. But God Yi, he's even more powerful, and the last killing intent defeated Yi Lu. As expected of the Meridian Breaking sect. The audience suddenly cheered. The armor on God Yi's body dissipated, turning into the shape of a sword in my hand, then disappeared. Dong Huangli poked Lu Xian, then took the initiative to go up and give her a hug. Lu Xian, was extremely nervous. Forget about hugging, she could not even say a word. The battle just now made Lu Xian, extremely nervous, but she also wanted to see God Yi's majesty. As expected, a man who attracts women is like this. That aura during battle, bringing victory and triumph. Which woman can withstand God Yi's charm? After being threatened by God Yi, Lu Xian, seemed to be afraid. God Yi walked towards Lu Xian, Lu Xian lowered her head, not daring to look at him. Her pretty face looked like it was about to bleed. She was screaming in her heart. Don't come over. Don't come over. However, a masculine aura came over, and her heartbeat accelerated as if it was about to jump out of her throat. Xian God Yi called out softly. Lu Xian really wanted to faint and not know anything after that. Dong Huangli said faintly, Brother Xian wants to give you a hug, but I'm shy. After hearing that, God Yi went into a daze, appearing to be a little surprised. Then he looked at Lu Xian, who had her head lowered, and asked faintly, You want to hug me? Lu Xian did not know why, but she felt like hammering the man in front of her to death. I'm older than you. You should have some manners. Therefore Lu Xian said seriously, Be more polite. Right after she said that, Lu Xian felt a huge inertia, and her body was already leaning into God Yi's embrace. This should be considered polite, God Yi said faintly. His tone was filled with madness and dominance. Men should be like this, never be afraid, and never let go of an opportunity. Smelling a special smell, Lu Xian subconsciously hugged onto God Yi's waist. I'm sorry, I smell a little sweaty. God Yi said softly. At first Lu Xian was still very shy, but after hearing that, she immediately pushed him away. That really is a special smell, it really ruined the atmosphere. Dong Huangli originally thought that her brother was a challenger, but in the end she did not expect him to be a bronze. The atmosphere was just right, and you already said that he smelled like sweaty. Everyone else would think that this was a sign of manliness. I don't know what kind of surprise this battle will bring us. I'm afraid it will be even more explosive than the last battle. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji looked at the children who were in the middle of the stage, and they were so angry that their teeth started to itch. They really wanted to press Yihua down onto the ground and beat him. All kinds of beatings. To actually look at the children fighting, and not even stop them. Is there a father like you? While smoking, Yihua looked at the two children and felt very satisfied in his heart. The subordinates looked at the two little sovereigns and revealed a happy expression on their faces. Especially when they looked at Ali. Their eyes were filled with love. Little Ali was the happiest person in the team. In the field, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were currently looking at each other. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan's gazes were cold and ordinary. As if the two of them weren't siblings at all, but enemies. His acting skills were not bad. As a member of the Yi clan, how could he not have some acting skills? Yi Yan suddenly opened his folding fan and lightly fanned himself. You seem to be very strong. You aren't weak either. Dong Huangli said faintly. I will win against you today. Yi Yan's words were filled with incomparable confidence. This caused Dong Huangli to be a bit puzzled. Seems like little brother has a trump card. But then again, I have a trump card as well. Furthermore, father and mother are watching right now. I can't afford to lose this battle. After all, I Dong Huangli am father and mother's pride. Although Yi Yan didn't know that his parents were watching right now, he was thinking in his heart, I can't lose to big sister. If this matter were to spread to father's ears, How embarrassing would that be? Boys can't even win against girls. Dong Huangli said faintly. If you want to win against me, you will have to see what abilities you have learned. That is only natural. When have I ever disappointed you before? Yi Yan kept his folding fan and threw it towards Yi Lu. Yi Lu held onto the folding fan firmly. Dong Huangli looked at the flute on Yi Yan's waist. Of course, she knew that this flute was given to Yi Yan by his father when he was young. It can be said that, out of the 4 children, Yi Yan's flute was the most awesome. Yi Yan took out the dragon abyss on his waist, played with it for a bit in front of his big sister, then threw it towards Yi Lu as well. Yi Yan was clearly telling big sister that even without using this flute, little brother can still win against you. Looking at her little brother's actions, Dong Huangli didn't say anything. This brat is really arrogant now. He actually dares to act cool in front of big sister. I will let you know the consequences of acting cool later on. It has been 12 years since we last met. Why? Do you want to act cool with big sister now? This is what Yi Yan is thinking. When I was young, big sister brought little brother along to act cool and fly around. Now that you have grown up, it is time for little brother to bring big sister along to fly around. This is truly unimaginable. Yi Yan from Shin Academy actually threw out his own weapon. What is the meaning of this? Is it 4? Or is he already trying to find an excuse for losing? Following the host's voice, Dong Huangli sneered. If not for the host's reminder, she would have almost been tricked by her little brother. Yi Yan cursed at the host in his heart. Such a deep trick was actually seen through by you. You are truly wasting so many expressions. Let's begin then. Dong Huangli said with a slight smile. Yi Yan clenched his fists tightly and even slightly bent down, just like a ferocious tiger that was about to hunt. However, Dong Huangli didn't even try to defend herself, and even placed both of her hands behind her back. Her acting cool index had reached 10 stars. Seeing his big sister's movements, Yi Yan slightly went into a daze. Then he looked at his own movements. It seems like it's not symmetrical. This way, I seem very low. As expected of big sister. Even after so many years have passed, she is still the same as before. However, Yi Yan's figure instantly disappeared. His speed was so fast that no one was able to react to his speed. This speed is even a bit faster than God Ye's speed just now. Furthermore, right now, Yi Yan didn't even use any martial skills, and God Yi was still using broken sword style. Big sister. Yi Yan's figure instantly appeared behind Dong Huangli's back, and with a karate chop. It seems like knocking big sister unconscious is the best way to win. Dong Huangli said lightly. Yenna, when did you learn to attack from the back? Attack when they are unprepared. Yi Yan said faintly. Are you sure that you want to attack when they are unprepared? Dong Huangli said faintly. This caused Yi Yan's brows to become wrinkled. Green smoke could be seen floating out from Dong Huangli's body. Yi Yan's face turned pale with fright, and subconsciously dodged. Furthermore, he pulled Dong Huangli to a safe position. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.